session of the Plenary Assembly and related meetings of the FPIC GRL, which took place from 15th to 19th April 2024 in Livingstone, Zambia, the role of the Parliament in adapting to climate change in the Great Lake regions was the theme of the event. This theme would not have come at a better time considering the recent weather changes owing to climate change. The discussions revolved around recognizing and addressing the impact of climate change within the Great Lakes region. The Plenary Assembly underscored the pivotal role of parliamentarians in the foundation of crucial decisions and effective solutions for adaptation and climate actions in the region. This shows the endeavor of the region to tackle the challenges presented by the climate change. In conclusion, the forum extends its heartfelt condolences and stands in solidarity with the governments, parliaments and people of Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi, who are currently grappling with the devastating effects of the heavy rains and flooding. Senator Ali Roba, Senator for Mandera County.
Thank you. Senator Sos, do you want to make a comment on this statement?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this statement is very important and very timely, talking about matters of heavy rains and flooding within the Great Lakes region. Mr. Speaker, the issue of flooding has not just affected Kenya, but indeed quite a number of countries have been affected. In fact, last year, we had a very serious problem in Malawi. We had a very serious problem in Mozambique. And I think this is a wake-up call that Africa needs to take matters of climate change very seriously, because this flooding is one of the consequences of the effect of climate change. So Africa countries, Kenya included, needs to take the issue of climate change very seriously, issues of afforestation very seriously, and issues of human interference to critical water catchment areas very seriously. So this statement by the Chair of Finance is very timely, and how I wish that the countries that are members of this forum would have a collective response towards matters of climate change, matters of flooding in our region. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, the issue of how to deal with the humanitarian situation that arises as a result of this flooding. I saw on TV that some countries which have been affected have been unable to deal with the humanitarian situation that has arisen out of this crisis. So how I expected that this, Mr. Speaker,
Senator Edokech,
members are consulting loudly.
That no member shall be standing in the House unless they are speaking, and I'm seeing a lot of members in the other side standing and is making this place a market. It is interfering with my friend Senator Ososi, Mr. Speaker. Can you help protect him?
Yes, Honorable Senators, if you look at the standing orders keenly, you will understand how you should conduct yourselves in the House, especially when a member is up and making his contribution. No other senator should be studying at that particular time. And also conversing on the aisles. You shouldn't sit down and discuss with your colleague. So thank you, Senator Andy, for bringing these members to order. Senator Sos, proceed and conclude.
Mr. Speaker, you know, members are excited because Senator Keroche is putting on ODM colors. So, and you know, Azimio and ODM colors. So I think they're excited about that. Welcome home, Senator Keroche. So, Mr. Speaker, allow me to wind up my contribution on this to say that humanitarian situation in some countries is wanting, and how this forum should seek for support from the global community on addressing the humanitarian situation arising from flooding and related risks. So, Mr. Speaker, this statement is timely, and I want to support the statement by my friend Robert, who has been very vocal on matters of division of revenue to support against the proposal of 1 man, 1 shilling. But Mr. Speaker, we'll have an opportunity to talk about this because the other regions will also have a say. It is not a matter of Mount Kenya and Northern Kenya alone. Other regions will also have a say on how we want our revenue to be shared. So, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Senator Onyonka Richard.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to reiterate what my brother Ososi has raised about the important matters affecting our environment, the issues of flooding. The reality on the ground is that, Mr. Speaker, we actually do not know whether we are going to have a typhoon, whether we are going to have excessive amounts of rainfall and all that. I think it's something that this House, I believe, Mr. Speaker, the House has to be engaged and seized on this matter. And I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, that even when my colleagues have discussed issues about what is supposed to be done in relation to global warming and the challenges coming out of it, Mr. Speaker, I feel that our country is not prepared for eventualities like this. And I would like to persuade my colleagues who sit in the Environmental Committee in the Senate to engage themselves and make sure that we can even set up a task force which is supposed to be engaged and discussing, because many of our areas within the rural areas, leave alone Nairobi, Mr. Speaker, where our people live, we are having challenges, and it looks like nobody is quite aware or nobody is going to give a way forward on what we should do. Mr. Speaker, if you discuss issues pertaining to emergency funding, whether the county government should engage, what are the percentages, emergency funding from the national government, we don't have clarity on those matters. So I would wish and hope that this House can engage itself proactively and set up a committee which, Mr. Speaker, I would recommend that it stays in office the whole final year, whether it means we draft a legislation on that. I think it's an important part that in our country, Mr. Speaker, we now need to have an emergency committee, if possible, which will be given assignments, not emergency when we are having floods only. Chairman, you notice we have people who die because of these emergencies, whether it's a building collapsing, whether it is vehicles, for example, when the vehicles are running and ramming into each other, Mr. Speaker. So these are things that I think we need to proactively engage ourselves. And I say thank you for giving me this opportunity. I wanted to agree with Honorable Sotsi that I give my chairman, Honorable Roba, credit and immense credit, and my vice chair who was not able to pronounce herself, but she quietly whispered to me that she agrees with me. We cannot discuss, Chair, issues pertaining to 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote without looking at all the Kenyans and what they think and what they view. Otherwise, we will consider it a nullity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sigei Wakiri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I would like to also applaud the Honorable Chairperson of the Finance Committee for such a timely statement, because the situation of not only the places that have been affected by the heavy rains is bad, but it has affected entirely the whole country. We are talking about schools. Some of them are yet to open. Some of them might not open because the entire structure of such institutions have been washed away or are still in flooded areas. We are talking about roads, Mr. Speaker, which are no longer accessible. The road all the way from Maimayu running through Narok to Bomet, where I represent, for a very long time, have been a victim of such situations. And considering the fact that this has affected almost entire economic of the country, we are saying, as we look through the mitigation measures that the country and the government is taking, as members of this House, as members of the public, as environmentalists, we should now continue with the conversation about the effects of climate change. And as we deal with the issue of planting trees that the Kenya Kwanza government is pushing, it is a long term. What options do we have in the short term to ensure that we support the effects of climate change, and we also make sure that we are prepared in such situations? As we speak right now, Mr. Speaker, the other day, the typhoon that went through some areas in the coastal region has taken away lives of people. Were we not prepared? Had we been notified? What action did we take? So, Mr. Speaker, this particular statement is very, very timely, and it helps us to look beyond just the rain. Let us also look at other devastating natural calamities that could come along the way. We are being warned that after the rains, after July, there is a possibility of long dry spell, and that should also sound warning to the government, to all those who are responsible, to make sure that in terms of preparedness, in terms of reaching out for partners to support, we utilize the resources so that when that time comes, we are not got in a situation where we are unable to support, we are unable to protect ourselves, and we are unable to sustain the livelihoods of the very vulnerable people, those in school and other places who need the support because of the situation that they will get themselves into. So to the chairperson of Finance Committee, who is a member and who is a member of that very important committee, we say we look forward to having everyone being involved in supporting such a very important statement. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to give a few other senators, but now I need timing for just 2 minutes. A comment on a statement, we don't need a lot of time. Those who have spoken before this decision is made are very lucky indeed. So time for me, 2 minutes. Senator Okech, not Okech, Andy?
Chair, are you timing me? But it's okay. Chair, I think that the first thing I wanted to say, Mr. Speaker, the first thing I want to say, I know you're my chair also in the mediation, is that I wish that anything that takes away property and anything that takes away the life of our people can be declared a national disaster. Just the same way we saw the magnitude of handling of COVID being a national disaster. These are the time that we expected that these floods would be treated with the same magnitude as we would treat any invasion in the country. And this is why we even wished we could have seen people in the Ministry of Environment and even the Honorable Soipan Tuya being able to do a proper update of what is going on in the country. I know that there are senators here that I'm empathizing with, like Senator Mungatana, who, just like in Migori, is facing a lot of challenges with the floods and disasters in his county, which is not brought to the national awareness. And I know a number of senators also who are affected in different counties. Mr. Speaker, where I come from in Migori County, it forms one of the rural counties that don't get a proper highlight of the effect of these floods. And sometimes people just think that these floods happen only in well-developed infrastructure. But the disruption of infrastructure, even in rural communities, Mr. Speaker, is very massive. For instance, if you go to Nyatike, you will find that a place like Luanda, Konyango, and if you go to a place called Modi, people there do not have even a life. And if this was declared a national disaster, a place like Luanda, Modi, Kabuto in Nyatike would have been considered for some serious interventions, like even building dikes and polders in those areas, Mr. Speaker. But even if you come to a place like Uriri, Mr. Speaker, you'll find a place like in North Kanyamkago, which is a ward in Uriri constituency, Mr. Speaker, you'll find people.
Okay, let me give you 30 seconds, but make sure whoever gets the chance to time the 2 minutes, kindly. Maybe you 30 seconds to conclude your statement.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, those areas, I think that what I wanted to encourage senators to look at for those interventions is that there are monies that are stuck like FLOCA, because I'm in finance and budget, Mr. Speaker. FLOCA, Migori County has gotten about 83 million. But there are counties that I know in this house that have not gone and gotten their money for FLOCA. Kiambu, where my friend Senator Tangwa comes from, their money is LDA of 103 million that could be able to help people intervene in different areas. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, the issue of emergency funds must be run properly because there are some emergency funds that are holding a lot of cash. Senator of Nyeri, your county has got 20 million in emergency fund that is not utilized because there is no proper legal framework to utilize that money. Let us look at emergency fund, and even in Machakos, there's a lot of money that is lying that needs to be looked at and can be able to help in terms of accessing FLOCA. And notoriously, Nairobi hasn't received money for FLOCA. And this is where most people are suffering, yet people's houses are being destroyed. But the county government of Nairobi hasn't organized itself, Governor Sakaja, to organize his people to come and take that money and intervene for our people who are in Mathare, for our people who are in Mukuru Kwenjenga, for our people who are in Embakasi East and in Embakasi South. So these are things that senators, we should be able to push our governors to start supporting them to get that cash. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wakoli Wafula.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii. Ningependa tu kuendelea na mchakato wa majadiliano kuhusiana na fedha za dharura ama changamoto za dharura ambazo zinakumba nchi hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni jambo la muhimu jumba kama hili la Senate, kando na kuzungumza kila uchao kuhusiana na utepetevu wa serikali za kaunti kupambana na majanga haya, lazima tumulike matumizi ya fedha hizi ambazo zimewekwa katika bajeti za kaunti tunazotoka. Mheshimiwa Spika, unaweza kujionea kwamba maeneo mbalimbali hupata majanga ya moto. Kufumba na kufumbua kabla ya wawekezaji kuzima moto huu, moto huwa umechoma kila kitu na unapata magari ya uzima moto yanakuja baadaye masaa 12 baada ya majanga kuharibu mali ya umma. Na ukifuata vitabu vya hesabu, Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata kuna fedha zimekuwa zikitumika kudhibiti ama kwa madai kwamba wamekuwa na dhibiti hali hizi. Mimi naomba Senate, Mheshimiwa Spika, naomba uamrishe viongozi wenzangu wawe na nidhamu katika jumba. Yule anayeomba Mheshimiwa Spika ni kiongozi wa walalahoi. Mheshimiwa Spika, nashukuru kwa nafasi hii na naomba tu kwamba katika msimu huu wa mvua nyingi
kutoka kwa Senator wa Mombasa.
Sihitaji mwelekeo wake Mheshimiwa Spika.
Hoja yako ni gani ya nidhamu?
Senator Bifoli Wakoli. Lakini naona kwamba anazungumzia mambo ya moto na zima moto, wakati taarifa iliyoletwa bungeni ya Senator Roba ni kuhusiana na mafuriko.
Senator Wakoli.
ni kuzungumzia mafuriko na tabia nchi inavyoathiri nchi zetu na nchi za bonde la kati. Thank you.
Kwa nidhamu sijui haijatosha kuwa hoja ya nidhamu. Kwa hivyo endelea Mheshimiwa Wakoli. Ilikuwa ujumbe unafahamishana, sio?
Tangu Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, jinsi nilivyokuwa naashiria, seneta mkubwa wangu yaonekana amekuwa nasinzia nilipokuwa nadondoa hoja zangu. Mheshimiwa Spika, ndio koko naalika maua. Mheshimiwa Spika, mafuriko nchini humu Mheshimiwa Spika yameathiri familia nyingi. Jana jioni katika eneo bunge la Mlima Elgon, eneo wadi ya Chesikaki, kumekuwa na poromoko wa ardhi ambao uliwafunika jamii watu 4 na mmoja kupata majeruhi makubwa sana. Sasa mambo ya mafuriko tunaelewa, na ni lazima serikali za kaunti ziweze kuwajibika kwa fedha ambazo tunapeleka mashinani na ziweze kuonekana zinafanya kazi. Isiwe kwamba ni fedha ambazo zinajukumika kuwafurahisha na kuwafanya viongozi kuishi maisha ya starehe. Sasa mimi naomba jumba la Senate kutoka sasa tuweze.
Senator Wambua.
Thank you, the Speaker. The Speaker, I want to also join my colleagues to thank and congratulate Senator Ali Ibrahim Roba for bringing this statement. And just say a few things, the Speaker. The Speaker, first of all, let us agree that climate change is real. And the effects of climate change, the Speaker, are being felt across the region. And that's the point at which, the Speaker, I must add that expecting that county governments will be able to use the meager emergency funds to respond to effects of climate change is actually courting disaster. The Speaker, I am reminded that just a few days ago, we had a serious landslide in Kiambu, and we lost lives there. Yesterday, continuing today, we have very strong winds in our coasts, and we have lost lives there. So, Speaker, we are reminded of the things that have happened in Naivasha and in Nairobi. We know the situation that is obtaining in Tana River. So, Speaker, there is need for concerted national efforts to deal with this matter in a more proactive manner. Because, the Speaker, it has become the norm that we expect every time it rains, there will be disaster in Tana River, there will be disaster in Kano, there will be disaster in Naivasha. But why can't we adopt a proactive approach in dealing with disasters caused by floods and heavy rains?
No, I think the timing is, you time after 1 minute you put land. Just 30 seconds, conclude.
Let me, Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by saying that, Mr. Speaker, we have a climate caucus in this Senate led by Senator Moses Kajwang. I want to urge members to join that caucus for purposes of giving more and better direction on how to deal with effects of climate change brought about by heavy rains. I'm told, Mr. Speaker, and I believe it, that in the next 4 months, from June to September, we are going to be having heavy rains at the coast region. What are we doing in preparation to deal with that eventuality when it happens? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Senators, you know the traditions of Parliament allow ranking members to be given priority. Now I'm comparing between two senators, Senator Chalagay Samson and Senator Andan Nduro Fatuma. And now I've realized that Senator Chalagay is a junior to Senator Fatuma Nduro. So Senator Fatuma Nduro, you have the floor. The junior can wait.
What is out of order? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really happy about this decision, and I hope it will continue in future. Mr. Speaker, let me thank Senator Roba for this statement. I am really disappointed with the government in these particular issues of climate change. Mr. Speaker, it has become a song, year in, year out, as far as the floods are concerned, as far as droughts are concerned. It's a song every day we sing. Mr. Speaker, I must thank the government on whatever intervention they are doing. But that is nothing compared to the challenges Kenyans are going through, Mr. Speaker. Running around with 1 bag or 2 bags of maharagwe and mchele, I mean, it's not helping our people. We must have a proper strategy of ensuring, Mr. Speaker, that we have solved this problem once and for all. Kenyans are losing lives. Some of us in pastoral communities, we normally lose animals during drought. We lose animals during rainy season. I mean, we have a lot of challenges. Mr. Speaker, I think those who are actually closer to the power, this time round, Mr. Speaker, they should be able to advise the government of the day that we need a solution. We have children who have not gone to school. We have actually kids who have not paid school fees. And all those schools are left on their own.
Senator, order, senators, order, senators. Order, Senator Chalagay Samson.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I think, Mr. Speaker, I want to agree that the issue of climate change continues to be a very challenging times, even in the developed countries, Mr. Speaker. While we agree there are challenges, we should be careful in how we make our comments in this House so that we don't mislead the public. The issue of managing disasters is a concurrent function. As a Senate, we should be telling the country what our counties are doing in terms of disaster. It's not an exclusive function of the national government. So let us not make comments for political expediency or social media attention, Mr. Speaker, but let us make comments that will assist our people. While we agree there are challenges in implementing, and the government has done largely, you are aware, Mr. Speaker, the pet project of His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, government and Kenya Kwanza government and His Excellency Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and Kenya Kwanza government is on the issue of climate change, Mr. Speaker. And the counties must also take their rightful share. 2% of the financial budget to every county goes to disaster mitigation and management, Mr. Speaker. I expect Lands and Environment and Natural Committee and also Finance and Budget to present the reaction and action by county government in terms of mitigating disaster across the region. Mr. Speaker, while we empathize and sympathize with many Kenyans who have lost their loved ones and many we are seeing, we want also to ask Meteorological Department to be predictable because we are seeing winds in the coastal region. We are seeing an unprecedented level of floods, Mr. Speaker. But I want to assure the nation that through the office of the Deputy President, which has been assigned the role of disaster mitigation and management, Mr. Speaker, senators in this House, you cannot have your cake and eat it, should go back to their counties, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion.
Senators, we should conclude this matter, but I'm interested to give the senator for Tana River, because he is very much affected by the floods, maybe to make his comment, and then we can go to the other statements.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to thank you so much for accommodating me, and I will just be 2 minutes. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we spent the better part with a very hard-working minister called Cabinet Secretary Malonza. Penina Malonza, Mr. Speaker, toured the entire Tana River, all the 3 constituencies, and we were accompanied by the area members of parliament, distributing food, Mr. Speaker, to various places. So I want to stand here to say that I am very happy with the work that some of our female ministers are doing in the cabinet of William Ruto. Mr. Speaker, as compared to CS Machogu, who has never stepped in Tana River County, I wonder what is happening with the Ministry of Education. We went to several camps, Mr. Speaker, and the minister herself was almost in tears, Mr. Speaker, because at least 30 schools have been swallowed up in the constituency of Garsena alone. In Makere Milelulu, the school is being broken. If you go to a place like Mgarashi, Mr. Speaker, you will find this entire villages, Mr. Speaker, have been buried. But Machogu has never found time to come to Tana River. Mr. Speaker, it is wrong for cabinet secretaries to operate on theory when the country is suffering as it is. So, Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity to tell Bwana Machogu, please wake up and come to Tana River County. We are suffering and we need the...
Senator Mungatana, I'll only 1 minute, but first listen to me. I'll only 1 minute. So have your seat, because I want to give you some advice. Of course, Senator Mungatana, you know how to get the CSAs in this floor anytime you need them. So I request that if there are issues in Tana River, kindly make sure that you do a question very fast for the CS to appear before the Senate, so that, because now he has no advantage of coming to this floor. So I might decline that 1 minute, Senator Mungatana, because you should be attentive to the chair and listen to my advice. So don't mention the CSM because you have powers to bring him to this Senate. Proceed, 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just saying, here is a minister who is aware of the disaster, and I'm not mentioning any names. He's aware of the disaster that is affecting the education sector, and he's not bothered to come to Tana River County. And yet, there is another cabinet fellow who is moving day and night, Mr. Speaker, to assist us. So, Mr. Speaker, I am urging that the Ministry of Education should wake up. Our children are having a problem, yes, and they should wake up.
What is your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I'm standing under point order number 1. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to plead with the chair that, Mr. Speaker.
Sorry, Senator Hedy, do you have powers to exercise order number 1 yourself?
To issue courage to, Mr. Speaker. And also under 101 in the speaker, in the content of speech of my colleague, Senator Mungatana. You see, Mr. Speaker, the issue of flood that we are discussing, Mr. Speaker, some of these things, the ultimate interventions lie with the cabinet secretaries, and to some extent what Senator Chajay has said, executives in the counties. If we don't call them out on this floor, just because we are waiting for them to be called out during questions, Mr. Speaker, we are doing a disservice to them, not even to us. Because if you don't question them in the laziness that they are having on serious issues that are affecting this country, Mr. Speaker, I'm just requesting you to allow Senator Mungatana to call out these ministers, to call them out
Senator
for
Mungatana,
not effectively taking their role in responding to this crisis. Because if you stifle that conversation on
Senator
Mungatana,
Senator Hedy, you have made your point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Mungatana, conclude.
I'm concluding, Mr. Speaker, by saying we appreciate the work some of the cabinet secretaries are doing. But we please want to ask some of the other cabinet secretaries who are sitting in Nairobi, Please come out. Education, education, education. Please come out and visit and tell us what we shall do with the children who are in camps. Come with canvas, because the teachers are ready. By the way, I congratulate teachers who are working in these hardship areas. They are ready, they have come, but they cannot, you cannot do anything under the circumstances that the children are. We want to ask for the cabinet secretary to use the power and his authority to make sure that those areas that have camps, that the children are having education under at least those matarbales, so that the teachers who are ready to teach can go and occupy these children. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we shall lose a whole generation, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the statements under 53.1. The Senator for Elgeyo Marakwet has requested deferment of his statement. So we go to Senator for Machakos.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for statement on acquisition of land set for public utilities in Syokimau Estate in Machakos County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Lands, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the illegal acquisition of, by private individuals of the land set for public utilities in Syokimau Estate in Machakos County. In the statement, the committee should, one, cause an inquiry into the acquisition by private individuals of parcels numbers 12715/190, 12715/267, 12715/207, 12715/255, and 12715/256, 12715/409, 12715/440, and 12715/447, and 12715/700, located in Syokimau Farm Limited, Syokimau Mavoko Sub-County, Machakos County, providing details of the current owners and indicate how they acquired the said parcels of land meant for public utilities. 2, state reasons of the delay by the National Land Commission to conclude investigation on the disputed parcels and provide timelines for these conclusions. And 3, spell out the plans, if any, by the government to construct public schools and other social amenities in the area. Senator Agnes Kavindu Mudhama, MP, Machakos County. Thank you.
Senator Samson Chelagay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request for statement on the status of the fight against alcohol and drug substance abuse in Kenya. So, Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations on the fight against alcohol and drug substance abuse. In the statement, the committee should, one, Mr. Speaker, detail the current state of fight against alcohol and drug abuse, in the country detailing the number of companies and alcoholic products that have been banned from the market. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, outline the measures the National Authority for Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, has put in place to curb substance abuse and avoid future recurrence of the vice. Number 3, state the number of perpetrators that have been apprehended and prosecuted, providing the number of court cases either completed or ongoing. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, shed light on the measures taken by the State Department for Internal Security and National Administration to support addicts through rehabilitation centers, indicating the number of addicts that have been assisted and those have been recovered from drug abuse since the beginning of the fight. So, Speaker, number 5, disclose which counties are most affected, explaining the roles played by the county governments in the fight against alcoholism and substance abuse. And finally, Mr. Speaker, state whether the ministry collaborated with relevant youth agencies to set youth programs and activities to engage them in positively eradicating drug abuse and alcohol among the young or the youths in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next is Senator John Bugwa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism regarding the status of the tourism sector in the country. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide data on the tourist facilities that have closed down over the past 3 years and state the reasons for the closure, and 2, elucidate on the performance of the sector over the last 3 years, highlighting investments into the sector and any measures put in place to promote recovery of the sector post the COVID-19 pandemic, and 3, outline any strategies put in place to promote investments in and diversification of tourist products, as well as to support medium, small, and micro enterprises operating in the sector, and 4, stating any measures put in place to enhance sustainability of the tourism in light of the emerging and existential threats to tourism, such as climate change, terrorism, and human-wildlife conflicts, among others. Thank you, Speaker.
Senator Andrew Mtata. Yes.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1, to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Trade, Industrialization, and Tourism regarding the mismanagement of the cooperative funds in the Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives, KUSCO. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the circumstances that led to the loss of cooperative savings over a period of 10 years as depicted by the recent audit undertaken by the Ministry of Cooperatives and Micro, Small, and Medium Enterprises Development. 2, disclose the regulatory and oversight measures the ministry undertook in respect of KUSCO to address and prevent mismanagement of funds over the 10-year period. 3, report on the status of compliance by KUSCO over the past 10 years in keeping proper books of accounts, undertaking annual audits, and submitting annual returns to the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs Development. 4, provide the loan portfolio of KUSCO, including a breakdown of the loans advanced to the board of directors and senior staff that were dismissed following the findings in the special audit commissioned by the ministry in October 2023. 5, indicate the status of the undischarged fixed deposits to members that fell due but had not been duly remitted as of the date of the audit report. And lastly, 6, detail actions taken by the ministry to recover the funds alleged to have been misappropriated by the Board of Directors and senior staff, and measures to ensure that such misappropriation does not occur in the cooperative sector. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. That's my statement.
Senator David Wakoli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Request for statement on the current status of staff at Kenya Seed Company headquarters. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Labor and Social Welfare regarding staff at the management level at Kenya Seed Company. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a detailed report of personnel at management level, including the current heads of departments at the Kenya Seed Company, their academic and professional qualifications, employment dates, the employment terms and disaggregated into contracts, permanent and pensionable, as well as casual staff, further highlighting the ethnic composition within each category. 2, state the criteria used for the recruitment and appointment of senior management staff at the company. And 3, present documented evidence regarding the extent to which the current workforce of Kenya Seed Company adheres to the legal requirements regarding regional and ethnic diversity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Wahome wa Matinga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the waiver of visa requirements for persons traveling into Kenya visa-free policy. In the statement, the committee should, 1, outline the regulatory and oversight measures the State Department for Immigration and Citizen Service has put in place to ensure that visa-free policy is not abused and does not pose security risks to the country. 2, provide a statistical analysis detailing the impact of the policy has had on trade, industrialization, and tourism sectors in the country. 3, disclose the total revenue generated by the government since the commencement of the policy on 1st January 2024. 4, state measures put in place to ensure compliance by travelers with the requirements of entry into Kenya. And 5, explain the challenges in operationalizing the policy, such as reiterations from countries that previously enjoyed visa exemptions to enter Kenya and the measures in place to address such challenges. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I want to give a few, 2 or 3 members to make a comment on these statements. I start with Senator Deputy Majority Rinda, Senator Keroche, Tabitha. Yes, Senator Chelge.
Mr. Speaker, just an issue of national importance. I wanted to raise under Standing Order number 1, and I beg your indulgence, and Article 41 on labor rights. Mr. Speaker, you remember yesterday, out of your indulgence, I read a statement on junior secondary schools in Tans, where they are currently on industrial action, wanting to be transited from internship to permanent and pensionable. Reading section, is it 35 of Public Service Act, Mr. Speaker, provides that no one should act beyond 6 months. That is the law, and you remember most of interns have acted more than that time. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I received information, and I wanted your indulgence, since the Chair of Education, Senator Joe Newto, is here, and I wish he would be listening, that you direct, Mr. Speaker, that maybe next week, between Tuesday and Thursday, the Teacher Service Commission and the Cabinet Secretary of Education to appear, because, Mr. Speaker, I'm receiving information that Teacher Service Commission has issued letters, disciplinary letters to show cause to JSS interns who are rightfully undertaking their industrial action as per Article 41 on the labor practices, Mr. Speaker. Yet TSC has gone ahead and issued letters to show cause why. So, Mr. Speaker, I was requesting, because I had read my statement yesterday, your indulgence that you direct at least the Education Committee should invite the TSC earliest opportunity, even by Tuesday, Mr. Speaker. You have the power. Even I remember in the last session, the former Speaker Emeritus directed a Cabinet Secretary to appear within 30 minutes. So I beg your indulgence. You can hear they are, I suspect they have come to present their memorandum at the gate of the Senate, Mr. Speaker. If you make a pronouncement on the direction, so that they also, Mr. Speaker, know that Senate is aware that GSS interns are undergoing problems, and TSC should avoid this issue of being draconian. We are not running a dictatorial dictatorial country, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
But I'm not aware whether that is JSS interns out there, unless you have a mechanism to know that they are the one who are out there. So I direct that you draft your question, and the secretary to be happy, the office of the clerk to process your request. But you are. Give him 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying yesterday, your indulgence, you allow me to read a statement on the issue of JSS. Now, as we were reading that statement, TSC has issued show cause letters to all the GSS interns across the country. So I was requesting, since I had made that similar request yesterday, can you direct the Education Committee to invite the TSC and Ministry at least next week, so that I don't need to come back?
I've directed you to do your question, and then the office of the clerk will be very happy indeed to process it with the urgency that it deserves. But to be neater, you need to raise the matter through the official way. Otherwise, even the chair in education was not interested to know what you are talking about. So, Senator Kloche, I requested you to make your comment. Okay, Senator Oloba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to support the statement raised by Senator Cherargei on substance abuse and alcohol and the fight against the same, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and it's funny that we are even talking, that Cherargei has brought up the issue on the JSS, because, Mr. Speaker, in one of the questions that he's asking is to shed light on the measures being taken by the State Department of Internal Security and in the affected areas, Mr. Speaker. In most of these affected areas, Mr. Speaker, you'll find that even the issues that are being raised or that are making young men to go out and women to go out and drink, Mr. Speaker, is some of the frustrations, including what we are seeing with the JSS teachers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think we are also not getting the formula right, because in terms of the fight against alcohol abuse and substance abuse, Mr. Speaker, it is just assumed that people are drinking because they have nothing else to do, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot of issues, underlying issues in the community, and I think this statement and the specific pointers that Cherargei is asking, both from NACADA and the Ministry of Interior and Security, Mr. Speaker, will shed some light. And Mr. Speaker, as much as we are not speaking about JSS, Mr. Speaker, this issue of the JSS teachers is literally an underlying issue that is being ignored, Mr. Speaker. And the fact that TSC is now trying to put disciplinary measures on people who are coming out to say that there's a problem, Mr. Speaker, I support what Cherargei is saying, that we need to summon these authorities, Mr. Speaker, so that they can come and tell us whether they want to deal with the issue of JSS or whether they want to keep punishing the teachers for coming out to speak up on what they need to fix, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I also support what Senator Mungatana was saying. It's only that you probably did not want to say, but Mr. Speaker, we call upon the Cabinet Secretary of Education to literally, the CS Machogu, to take some of these sentiments seriously, Mr. Speaker, because it is not an issue of whether he's available or not, but every part of Kenya must actually be given priority, Mr. Speaker. Even Tana River County, Mr. Speaker. So, yes, Machogu, Cabinet Secretary for Education, it is time that you wake up and do better. And even this issue of the JSS teachers, Mr. Speaker, if Machogu is not able, Mr. Speaker, some of us, we can step in and assist him. So we are just saying that he needs to take his job seriously, even in Tana River. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mutinda, Tabitha.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to comment on the statement by Senator George Mbugua on the status of the tourism sector, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the tourism sector is a sector that brings high levels of income in this country, amounting to close to over 400 billion in this country. But during the COVID period time, we faced challenges as a country and many other countries across the world. But now, where we are, and narrowing back to our country as Kenya, you realize we have hotels. Case example, Hilton Hotel, Intercontinental Hotel, the KICC building. We have also Mombasa Beach Hotel that have closed down, leading to unemployment and many other challenges that come with the same, Mr. Speaker. At the same time, issues of lost investments in these particular hotels, because as we speak today, I don't know what is happening with the Intercontinental Hotel. It was closed down. We would want to know, yes, who's the current owner, the way forward, because these are great investments in our country that have high incomes, Mr. Speaker. So I do support this statement, and we hope it will be expedited, because these are areas that people have lost jobs, and this is a very high income area. Further to that, there's also the statement by Senator Wahome, Wamatinga, in terms of the visa-free issue. Yes, it's very key. It's very important for us to note the data and how much revenue it has used. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Let's get the statement under 57-1, Deputy Majority Leader.
I am the leader. Listen to the leader. Statement by the Senate Majority Leader on the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 28 May, 2024, pursuant to Standing Order 57-1. Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 57-1, I hereby present the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 28 May, 2024. Mr. Speaker, sir, the status of legislative business before the Senate is as follows. 42 bills are pending conclusion in the Senate, of which 38 are at the second reading stage, while 4 are the committee of the whole stage. 15 motions are pending conclusion. 17 petitions are due for reporting by the representing standing committees, and 360 statements are pending before the respective standing committees. During the afternoon sitting of the Senate held on Wednesday, 15th May 2024, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations tabled 3 reports on petitions. I take this opportunity to laud the committee for the progress made in considering petitions referred to it and reporting thereon. I urge other standing committees to follow suit and expedite considerations of the petitions before them and table reports accordingly. Mr. Speaker, sir, in accordance with the calendar for the third session, the Senate is scheduled to proceed on recess from 30th May 2024 and resume regular sittings on 25th June 2024. As senators look forward to the upcoming recess, it is important to recognize that the pending business before the Senate is still high, which also include mediation on crucial bills. This being said, I wish to implore senators to prioritize plenary sittings in the chamber in order to ensure progress is made on the business scheduled in the order paper. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Senate Business Committee will meet on Tuesday, 28 May 2024 to consider the business for the week. The tentative business for Tuesday will include business not concluded from today's order paper, as well as the business indicated in the notice paper, which include bills at the second reading stage and motions. The tentative business for Wednesday, 29th May 2024, morning sitting will include the schedule of questions as approved by the Senate Business Committee, as well as motions. The summary of the questions is as follows. Question number 021 to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning by Senator Edwin Sifuna. Question number 037 to the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs by Senator Boni Harwale. Question number 040 to the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs by Senator Tom Ojienda. Questions number 057 to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry by Senator Tom Ojienda. Question number 060 to the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury and Economic Planning by Senator Catherine Muma. And question number 072 to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry by Senator James Murango. Mr. Speaker, sir, the business for Wednesday, 29th May 2024 afternoon sitting will include business not concluded in the order paper for Tuesday, 28th May 2024, and the following. Bills at the second reading stage. The Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, Senator Bills number 40 of 2023. The Wildlife Conservation and Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 46 of 2023. The Wildlife Conservation and Management Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 49 of 2023. The Local Content Bill, Senate Bill number 50 of 2023. The Cooperative Societies Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 53 of 2023. And the Early Childhood Education Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 54 of 2023. The projected business for Tuesday, 30th May 2024 will be business not concluded in the order paper for Tuesday, 28th May, Wednesday, 29th May, and any other business scheduled by the Senate Business Committee. I thank you and hereby lay the statement on the table of the Senate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you, Deputy Majority Leader. Let's go to the next order.
Order number 8, the Law of Succession Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 20 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Law of Succession Act and for connected purposes.
So, honorable senators, I want to reorganize the order paper. these orders appearing as number 9 to 17 are defunct. We go to order number 18.
Order number 18, the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 45 of 2022, second reading.
Senator Samson Chelage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this indulgence to move Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill number 2 of 2022. So, Speaker, all of us are aware that the biggest challenge in this country, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of cancer. If you are not a victim, you are associated with it. And I know a number of members of the Senate during the weekend, either they are doing fundraiser to pay hospital bills, which cancer is one of the expensive, Mr. Speaker. Either they are in WhatsApp groups, Arambe. Majority of the Arambes we do, Mr. Speaker, is on cancer cases. Mr. Speaker, and it is across the country, Mr. Speaker, and this disease continues to ravage and kill our people. The sad thing about cancer, Mr. Speaker, is it does not only kill a person, but it impoverishes families. There are many families who lose their loved ones and lose resources because it's expensive to treat cancer, Mr. Speaker. I think the reforms in NHIF should give, and I know before we have had a discussion on this, on treatment of cancer across the country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, cancer is the third leading cause of death in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. You are aware, for example, in 2020, 42,000 cases of cancer were reported in Kenya. In the same period, 27,000 cancer-related deaths, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, as far as the statistics of Ministry of Health, there are counties that lead with cancer deaths-related complications, that is Nairobi, Kiambu, and Nakuru, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, the challenges in cancer continues to bedevil us in one way or another. Apart from financial distress to the families, Mr. Speaker, it continues to affect us. I know a number of members, even of parliament, who have diagnosed with cancer and they are on cancer treatment. So, Speaker, cancer eats the body and its resources of a family. Most people travel to India or other developed countries for cancer treatment, and it is millions and millions of shillings, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with the modern era of technology, I am aware Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, Mr. Speaker, in 2023, I have a pilot project of artificial intelligence that is trying to treat cancer, Mr. Speaker. The essence of this amendment in Section 2, Mr. Speaker, is the import of e-medicine and telemedicine in terms of diagnosis, treatment, and possible prevention of cancer in the country. Telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, means introduction of electronic way of engagement, Mr. Speaker. For example, in my teaching and referral hospital, for example, you go there and you do teleconference through e-medicine and telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, with your consultant maybe in India. And in fact, they can guide the doctors in Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital and also Kenyatta National Hospital and all our facilities, be it Aga Khan, Nairobi Hospital, Mr. Speaker, and this has been done. What we are trying to do is to entrench in the law. We are trying to amend the Cancer Prevention Act, Mr. Speaker. That is the act that is number CAP 246B, as revised in 2012, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, the issue of telemedicine, we need to incorporate as a country so that you also prevent people traveling to India or any other parts of the world. And I know medical tourism has become one of the biggest revenue for the people of India among other nations, Mr. Speaker. For example, Eldoret is pride as becoming one of the cities, hospital cities, because you find a number of them. So, Speaker, I'm aware there is a new CEO by the name Dr. Kirwa at Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we are aware that this referral hospitals must be updated. Even counties, these are challenge to counties to do telemedicine, Mr. Speaker. Even at KNH, I know there are crises at KNH, Mr. Speaker, because there are allegations that EACC investigating the CEO of KNH, but we want to challenge our referral facilities to borrow on telemedicine in terms of dealing with Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, the projection, Mr. Speaker, the cancer cases from 2012 to 2020 annually has increased from 37,000 to 47,887, Mr. Speaker. And this artificial intelligence will continue. Mr. Speaker, I will tell you, people when they're doing ACL or any other procedure, Mr. Speaker, they are using the current mode of engagement in terms of ensuring that you are able to see. Mr. Speaker, there are many prominent people that have died out of cancer, Mr. Speaker. And one of them I have mentioned before, and you know, and you know cancer does not select the family, does not select the age, it does not select who you are, it kills you. And you know, Mr. Speaker, normally the reggae icon, Bob Marley, died out of cancer at the age of 36. There are many people who have died, Mr. Speaker, because of cancer, Mr. Speaker. So this issue of e-health means the combined use of electronic communication and information technology in the health sector. Telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, means the provision of healthcare services and sharing of medical knowledge over distance using telecommunication and includes consultative, diagnostic, and treatment services. So what we are trying to do, Mr. Speaker, is just to amend Section 2 to ensure when you go, Mr. Speaker, before a doctor, your consultant, you can go when you are somewhere in Garissa, County Referral Hospital, and you can engage your doctor in KNH or MTRH, Mr. Speaker, or even outside the country. Mr. Speaker, promote the use of e-health and telemedicine for prevention and management of persons with cancer, and promote treatment of persons with cancer as component of primary health care. Mr. Speaker, on this, it's very simple. In my opening remarks, cancer continues to be the greatest third killer in the country. And therefore, we must, I'm not saying only cancer, we must put in place, Mr. Speaker, in place necessary mechanisms to put in place, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the e-health strategy is anchored on the achievement of Vision 2030, whose overall goal is health to have an equitable and affordable health care of the highest achievable standards. Mr. Speaker, the reading of our Constitution, Mr. Speaker, is very clear on the access. And in fact, this should have started with my submission, Mr. Speaker. When you read, Mr. Speaker, on Article 43 on economic and social rights, 1A, it talks to the highest attainable standards of health, which includes the right to health care services, including reproductive health care, Mr. Speaker. So what we are saying is implementing the Article 43 on economic and social rights, access to attainable highest, in fact the Constitution is very specific, highest attainable standards of health. So what we are just doing is to make sure the health care is accessible, it's practicable, Mr. Speaker. You don't need to buy a air ticket to fly to India or America or anywhere. You contact that hospital that you want to engage and your consultant here in Nairobi or even in Kapsabet or any other counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this with an emphasis that we have invested so much in ICT infrastructure. In the country, we are laying the cable across the country. Mr. Speaker, Kenya is one of the biggest access to internet, apart from South Africa in Africa, Mr. Speaker. Access to internet. And therefore, we must use internet. I know, Mr. Speaker, the President has been pushing for ICT apps in more than 290 constituencies, Mr. Speaker. Even a place called Taptengele in Tindret sub-county, where young people are going there in that tertiary college and work online, Mr. Speaker. If we can work online to earn money, Mr. Speaker, from Taptengele, in Kaiboi, across the nation, Mr. Speaker, it means there is a possibility of using telemedicine and e-health as part of the, Mr. Speaker. So if we have to attain, as per Article 43, 1A, the highest standard of health, Mr. Speaker, is known. And it comes as a backdrop. Mr. Speaker, the other day, and I want to thank, I wish Senator Boni Khalwale was here. I want to thank the head of public service, Felix Kosgei, Cabinet Minister, Mama Waziri, Susan Akumicha, Mr. Speaker, and a retinue of government officials, including the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Labor, Florence Bore, for ensuring that the issue of industrial action or the doctor strike was amicably resolved, Mr. Speaker. I am aware, and I want to challenge the same team for resolving that issue. I want to challenge the same team that now that, Mr. Speaker, the laboratory technicians are still on strike, Mr. Speaker, and clinical officers, I wish also those issues could be addressed, because at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, we need human resource to run these hospitals. So the moment human resource within the health sector is in dire strains, Mr. Speaker, is very, and that is a clarion call to Council of Governors, that as they say, in the highest possible point, somewhere in Mount Everest, Mr. Speaker, and we send our condolences to a number of people who have lost their lives whilst trying to climb Mount Everest without supplemental oxygen, as they try and go to the highest point of Mount Everest and tell the country, you know, health is devolved, they should also walk the talk by ensuring, Mr. Speaker, they look at it, they also address human rights, human resource, and ensure our doctors, our clinicians, our laboratory technicians, our clinical officers are well remunerated in terms of access, Mr. Speaker. So the issue of ICT, Mr. Speaker, will create employment and ensure that there are factors in it, Mr. Speaker. I'll run through because in the interest of time and allow my colleagues to contribute. Mr. Speaker, with the national ICT policy and in-government and e-government strategy, we now have citizen services. E-citizen, Mr. Speaker, nowadays you must apply everything through ECT. Are we like the ICT policy, Mr. Speaker? We must use now and ensure that we push in place, because the President is very keen with the ICT labs. Let us use, Mr. Speaker, to also prevent cancer. Mr. Speaker, through e-health, the health sector in Kenya envisions efficient, accessible, equitable, secure, and consumer-friendly healthcare services enabled by ICT. Mr. Speaker, can you imagine if you have your doctor in India, but you are being told, go to Kenyatta National Hospital or MTRH or Garissa or a Coast. Just go to Garissa County Referral Hospital, sit with your doctor, and they bring huge screens. And then your doctor is in India. One, you have saved the cost for that patient of flight tickets, air flight tickets, the accommodation they would have undertaken, the fatigue, because he's somebody who is sick, Mr. Speaker. So this one is very important, and I want to ask my colleagues to rally around it so that we also fight cancer. Mr. Speaker, the biggest challenge with the fight against cancer is late diagnosis. Late diagnosis. You have had a case. I had a friend the other day was telling me they realized cancer is at stage 4, and there is little that you can do. The patient undergoes the pain. The resources that belong to the family is few, Mr. Speaker. So at the end of the day, this e-medicine and telemedicine will assist in cutting cost of healthcare services in this country. And I hope counties will borrow. After we amend the Cancer Prevention Act, counties must put e-health and telemedicine within the infrastructure so that somebody in Abaswen can go somewhere and go to that dispensary, Mr. Speaker, and look at it. Somebody in Kapkangani, Mr. Speaker, somewhere in Mgwen, somebody maybe in Kaptumo, sub-county hospital can go there, or Kapsabet, or even MTRH, or somewhere across the country, even in Kilome, Mr. Speaker, can be able to access. Mr. Speaker, the global trends, and I have told you, even the World Health Organization has defined the issue of World Health has defined the combined use of electronic communication and information technology in the health sector. So it borrows from just e-health. So, Mr. Speaker, I know members, just for benefit of members and the debate ahead, is that e-health has already been adopted by World Health Organization. Even in the fight against COVID, Mr. Speaker, e-health was being used on telemedicine because at that time there was totally lockdown. There was less movement. So we need now to amend the law to reflect, cited, Mr. Speaker, in future, if we encountered a challenge of like COVID, where there is lockdown, Mr. Speaker, patients will not die or suffer. And you remember, even at that point, there was no admissions in hospital. You are being told, take your patients home, Mr. Speaker. And another challenge, Mr. Speaker, you know most of the patients that are in cancer or suffering from cancer, most of them and have a challenge of being taken home where you are having palliative care. Mr. Speaker, you know, somebody who is terminally ill. One of the diseases that can force you, Mr. Speaker, is terminally ill, Mr. Speaker, and palliative care becomes the only option that you have. So you can imagine if you are treating your patient at home, somewhere in my village called Kapkeben, Mr. Speaker, in Mosoriat, and you are sitting there, and you, Mr. Speaker, you are able to do teleconferencing with your doctor in terms of going, Mr. Speaker. Even in Vision 2030, I know we have moved to Vision 2050 on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, Mr. Speaker. It becomes, Mr. Speaker, one, it will revitalize the health structure. Mr. Speaker, let me say this, you know, and we were with you when the issue of Garissa happened on health. You know, most governors think health is the hardware. It is the software, the service you get when you go and see the doctor, when you get the service. You know, most governors, even my governor, we have a newborn facility unit within Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. It has taken almost 600 million, Mr. Speaker. But the governors are busy building infrastructure as opposed as providing the service delivery. So if we have to revitalize the health structure, it is very important. It will allow service delivery. And I'm told, Mr. Speaker, nowadays, you know we are using telemedicine, by the way. Because when you are sick and you have your doctor, you can write something on WhatsApp, and then they respond. It is part of the e-health that we have, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and that is my 50th point. Also, a study published in the National Library of Medicine shows that AI can also help in diagnosis in such a way it's precision. Mr. Speaker, where AI, Mr. Speaker, I hope you have been, all of us in Kenya, sometimes, and I know there are cases in KMPDU, where wrong diagnosis has been prescribed and even lives have been lost. Where you go to an hospital, you receive the wrong prescription, you get the wrong drugs, Mr. Speaker, wrong diagnosis, and you end up dying. And I know, Mr. Speaker, if we introduce the artificial intelligence and telemedicine and e-health, Mr. Speaker, we will be precise, like the eye of a military marksman, Mr. Speaker. That is the precision when the artificial intelligence will come in place, Mr. Speaker. Say that we don't do guesswork, Mr. Speaker. You go and say, you know, where I come from, they say, you know, the elderly people don't describe. They say, I feel the thing of the heart. The heart, they can't describe. They call it in my language, so at the end of the day, it becomes a challenge when they go to see the doctor. So the doctor asks, what is this thing of the heart? So with the AI, Mr. Speaker, it will ensure there is a military precision. And I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, you are resonating with what I'm saying, because also all of our people will be described. But with the issue of AI, Mr. Speaker, it will ensure we use this precision of a military marksman to ensure, Mr. Speaker, and for us who work sniper movies, we know the essence of precision. When you work sniper movies, Mr. Speaker, in a number of either Netflix or Amazon or any other place, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this has been used, in fact, oncology artificial intelligence startup monitor. Mr. Speaker, I request, and I hope the Senator of Kisumu was here, I don't know how far Jaramogi Oginga Hospital has proceeded with the issue of artificial intelligence. I hope the problems that Nakuruwa Memorial Hospital are having would be resolved soon so that we can introduce AI, because I can see my leader is very keen, especially on telemedicine and e-health herself. I hope she's seeing it in terms of service. You know, she's an entrepreneurial lady. Maybe she's asking herself where the money can come from. But anyway, that's a story for another day, Mr. Speaker. This has led to 60% off-duty oncology calls by enabling patients to interact directly with AI-driven system, real-time monitoring. Oncologists assess patient symptoms and be able to interpret, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have, and World Health Organization is encouraging countries to do this. I hope yesterday, Mr. Speaker, you know US said, as the president is in the US, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy yesterday, you know, my brother, Senator Sifuna, had asked why part of the delegation of the government was in the country. But you know, in our culture, you leave the son or the daughter you trust to take care of the home. You don't go with them away. But Mr. Speaker, curiously, and I would have wished Senator Sifuna was here without prejudicial of standing under 101, I saw yesterday Azimio issued a statement that they are also part of delegation that go to the US. And I've seen minority leadership. They are saying bipartisan in that team, Mr. Speaker. So but I can see, I'm aware Senator Sifuna is in the country. So it also reflects on his standing within his own party. But that is a story for another day, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on e-health patients, it will ensure timelines, communication, and I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, in your gallery, there are a number of students. We are going, I know a number of them would want to pursue medicine, Mr. Speaker. It will also be part of the learning. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, after the passage of this, even in the training of medicine among doctors, the issue of telemedicine and e-health will feature prominently going into the future of medicine in this country. Mr. Speaker, some of the key results of the foremost common use M-Health or mobile health, the one I was using, Mr. Speaker, the another issue is telehealth or telemedicine, where you call your doctor and tell what you are feeling. It's called telemedicine, Mr. Speaker. Used to associate with computing, big data, and security, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these stakeholders continue to be involved in many of the issues that we continue to have a challenge, Mr. Speaker. And the knowledge, and I hope, you know, when changes come to a sector, Mr. Speaker, there is always resistance. I hope the medicine world, especially in Kenya, will be ready. We are not taking away the role of anybody, Mr. Speaker, but we are ensuring that we are there. Mr. Speaker, the issue of, from the National Health Survey, and I have indicated this, can you believe, Mr. Speaker, in 2021, 37.5% were using telemedicine in 12 months. All of us use, even me when I'm unwell, I call my doctor, I'm feeling this way. That is what we call telemedicine. And many Kenyans are using, 37% of the people who are using, Mr. Speaker. In fact, among women, I don't know whether women care about their health so much. Telemedicine use increased with age. And I think as you get older, you become keen. You also choose what you eat. You start eating less sugar. Mr. Speaker, you know, with the issue of nutritionists, you know, you are being told, don't take a lot of sugar, take a little salt, don't take a lot of meat, don't overdrink the other stuff, hard stuff. We have even been told, don't overdrink tea, Mr. Speaker. And you know, Jesus took wine. People are being told, no, 1 glass or 2. But I think everything is in moderation. But I'm told here, women, compared with men, 42% use telemedicine and 31.7% compared to men. So I don't know whether, you know, I always see some funny things on social media where men are normally accused of being careless about their lives and health, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, women are doing a good job in ensuring that they keep themselves healthy, Mr. Speaker. I would have expected the Deputy Majority Leader to applaud that. While TSMS refers specifically to remote clinical services, telehealth can refer to non-clinical services. Mr. Speaker, for discipline, and I think primary health care is a term of technology, Mr. Speaker. Up and short, because I don't want to go through my notes that I had prepared, Mr. Speaker, up and short is that the cancer prevention, the issue of ensuring that we prevent cancer in this country, and I think, Mr. Speaker, it will also diagnosis. We have said, and Mr. Speaker, are you aware, I don't know whether colleagues here have noticed this, sometimes you go and see a doctor, and I have this case. You go and see a doctor, they go and do diagnosis, but they get the wrong thing. After some time, you are not told that it has metastasized into a cancerous. So with the introduction of telemedicine and artificial in services, Mr. Speaker, it will be very easy to properly detect, Mr. Speaker. And in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, there is also, and I'm happy Kenyans are industrious, and I hope students who are at the gallery, Mr. Speaker, we have Mercy S. Chipchirchir Faculty of Information Technology, Strathmore University, which is trying to come up with innovative in terms of treating cancer, Mr. Speaker. And sometimes Mr. Speaker, in the last session, we were able to visit as liaison then to Kuala Lumpur. Is that in Indonesia? Yeah, Indonesia. We were in Kuala Lumpur, Mr. Speaker. Malaysia, we visited with the liaison those days when I was very powerful chair of JLAC, among other colleagues, chair of energy, the former senator of Nyeri, former Senator Baringo, Mr. Speaker, and a number of chairs, including our Speaker and then Speaker Kenneth Lusaka, the famous is it called Kwafela? I'm forgetting the name that is nicknamed in the village. And we went there, Mr. Speaker, and after some time, we went and visited the doctor, and they told us, Mr. Speaker, if your family's DNA is predisposed to cancer, you should at least take regular checkups within a year. And we met the former DCI, the current ambassador there. I think the call of duty is coming to an end, Ndegwa Muoro. And he took us, and we were able to check, and they check as per the body. But they are using AI. In fact, when I did, I almost say ultrasound. I think ultrasound is done for women who are pregnant. Or can it be done to men also? Then there is, I don't know, the one that they use, Mr. Speaker, to check your internal organs, and you are able to see. You can decide to have your rest of the lower part to be paralyzed or the upper part, or you can go into anesthesia, or you watch how your body organs look like, and you can see from the screen when you are in the hospital, Mr. Speaker. I think that is the future, Mr. Speaker. Even myself, when I had operation of ACL, after we were elected with your father in the first session, Senator Haji Senior, you know, Mr. Speaker, I had your colleague Speaker referring me to Junior in this house. If I served to your dad, I'm a very senior person in the ranking member of this house, Mr. Speaker. And at that time, Mr. Speaker, they should note that, Mr. Speaker. And I'm now currently serving with you, and God has been faithful. So, Mr. Speaker, looking at that aspect, we were able to discuss and be able, Mr. Speaker, health, Mr. Speaker, in all general, health continues to be the biggest spending to many families, Mr. Speaker. Health budget, apart from food, 60% of any household income in this country is spent on food. The next spending of our family is health, Mr. Speaker. We must do something at health. Even as the president is reforming the issue of NHIF, the counties must take the lead, Mr. Speaker. You saw my county, allegedly, instead of counties becoming a source of protection, Mr. Speaker, somebody was attempted rape within Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. Where will our women and girls run to? You also, allegations of sexual offenses in your hospital at Kapsabet, Karisa County Hospital, Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, we have been fair. We have amended Facilities Improvement Act to allow hospitals to spend at own source revenue there. So we expect a better health services at Mashinani, in Kobujoy, in Kapsengere, in Mosoriot, in Kabiyet, in Chepterwai, Mr. Speaker. We expect even in Marmanet, in Keringet, Mr. Speaker, in anywhere, even in Karisa, because now counties don't have a reason. We have given them to spend under Section 2122 of the Facilities Improvement Act that the President signed in 2023. So they will not say there is no fuel for ambulance. Because in Nandi, you have to pay 2,000 or 5,000 to get an ambulance to be taken to referral hospital. You go to the hospital, you have been told there is no medicine. But now we have given them to collect through cost sharing and spend at that point, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, on the amendment of the Institute, this cancer, the Institute shall collaborate with the National Government Department responsible for health to promote training of human resource for oncology services. Mr. Speaker, you have seen the challenge of IFIMIS. You know, I've had a privilege of sitting in public accounts for some time now. When IFIMIS and IPPD was introduced, most counties are grappling with it. And that is why Ministry of Treasury has been able to put in place necessary mechanisms for training and capacity, Mr. Speaker. So this one, in this institute, the reason we are amending Section 31, Mr. Speaker, is to create a bipartisan, Mr. Speaker. I agree that health is devolved, Mr. Speaker, but also we must ensure as we devolve health, Mr. Speaker, is we need collaboration, because in as much as national government, and you can see the fourth schedule, the work of the national government is standard policy and standards that is being passed. The soft part is for national government. But the real deal of implementing the issue of health services, Mr. Speaker, is on the aspect of national government. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to call my colleagues. No one is clawing back devolution, because I know people will be asking, Why are you saying you collaborate with the national government? Because they have capacity. We have referral hospitals. They have money. They set standards, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, on this cancer prevention amendment, I just wanted to do a lot of, I know I'm not an expert in this field, but I felt that the issue of cancer prevention control should be an issue. Mr. Speaker, we want to ensure that as a country, we speak the language of the people who continue to suffer, violating Article 43 because of cancer. Cancer is a dangerous killer disease that we must put concerted efforts as a country and proper resource, human resource, infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, going to the future. I have told you one of the icons that I normally celebrate, Mr. Speaker. You can imagine at 36, Bob Marley died out of cancer. If today he was still alive, what would be say, apart from singing One Love, apart from singing so many? I think Peter Tosh, if I'm right, also died because of cancer-related complications, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, we must, as a country, ensure, I know our artist here, Senator Crystal, is excited that I know music. I know she might be one of the guru in music, and she wants, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, by the way, are you aware I attended her launch? Are you aware I attended her launch at Ngong Road when she was launching one of the best albums, Mr. Speaker? But I want to encourage her, since I'm a fan of reggae, he should start singing reggae so that some of us can listen to Rastafarianism. Okay,
do you want to be informed, Senator Cherargei?
Yes.
Yes, Senator Crystal Osigi.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for this opportunity to inform Senator Cherargei of a fact that he may have not been aware of before this moment, which is, Chair, that yes, as an award-winning musician myself, I have many albums and many songs that I have composed and produced, and it will be of great enjoyment, perhaps, for the Senator to know that one of my upcoming albums will be a reggae album. And I would hope that he would also attend that launch of that particular album. And I will be inviting any member of parliament who enjoys reggae music, because we cannot stop reggae music. I appreciate it.
Mr. Speaker, that was useful information. Mr. Speaker, I hope I have attended. I'll also be able to attend, and I want to encourage colleagues. No one can stop reggae. I know people of BBI use that one, but the BBI was stopped, but not reggae, Mr. Speaker. reggae is a way of life. The BBI was stopped, but reggae was not stopped, Mr. Speaker. So reggae will continue. I hope to listen to that album when you will be launching. And I hope Senator Mwenda Kataya, who is used to listening rumba and Kanda Bongo Man songs, can be able to attend so that we can teach him the way of Rastafarianism, Mr. Speaker. And people who listen to Kapuka and many other songs. Mr. Speaker, yes, of course, we are aware it has not stopped, Mr. Speaker. You know, Senator Kataya Mwenda Mwofire listens only to Kanda Bongo Man and rumba songs, but we want to encourage him. You know, there are people who listen to Kapuka, there are others nowadays that they will listen to major songs. This major, there is a young man that normally sings, Mr. Speaker. I know Senator Crystal understands. And in fact, your visitors, Mr. Speaker, also in their generation have how they listen to their songs, Mr. Speaker. It becomes also, it behooves all of us, especially with the era of TikTok. And I hope, Senator Crystal, you will share your presentation on TikTok and social media so that we can listen. You know, this generation, Gen Z, only listen, who are seated up there, only listen through TikTok. Your Facebook, I'm being told it is over. Mr. Speaker, the aspect I'm trying to conclude in the issue of Cancer Institute is we must ensure we give necessary resources, Mr. Speaker, going into the future. We put resources through Cancer Institute, but I'm hesitant, Mr. Speaker. Do you know this issue of boards continues to be a problem, Mr. Speaker? continues to be a problem in terms of boards. But my only concern, Mr. Speaker, let us ensure we put in place Cancer Institute, we give resources, Mr. Speaker, and ensure that in the partnership, and I know there is many funding, Mr. Speaker, in terms of partnership, Mr. Speaker, we ensure, Mr. Speaker, that we put enough resources as per aspiration of Section 31. Because when you read the reading of Section 31, Mr. Speaker, this Cancer Institute is very critical. Because we want to do research, Mr. Speaker. For example, in Bomet, or I don't know whether it was Bomet, people are alluding that some of us who drink mursik that is mixed with some, and I know Senator Ezen understands that we drink, it is called mursik, mala. They sometimes mix with a special tree, and people have been saying, you know, there was an argument, Mr. Speaker, saying areas where people drink tea. You know, the other day we were celebrating International Tea Drinkers. Not drinkers, International Tea Day. The temperature sometimes is too high, maybe it's causing throat cancer. So we need Cancer Institute to tell us why, for example, Kiambu, Nairobi, and Nakuru, where Senator Deputy Majority Leader comes from, is leading in cancer, so that we don't create wrong perception. Why is it so? The Cancer Institute must be given necessary resources to do the research, so that we understand why we are losing over 27,000 Kenyans every year through cancer. Mr. Speaker, why is it so? How do we ensure that we put place, Mr. Speaker? That is the Cancer Institute. When you look under Section 31, Mr. Speaker, you know, Mr. Speaker, this is one of the Mr. Speaker, technical subject. So we must put more resources to cancer. And I want to challenge, Mr. Speaker, National Assembly, as they appropriate budget for ministries. The reason, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say this passionately, the reason Senate today wants 415 billion to be added to counties, against 390-something that was proposed National Assembly, is to have enough resources to fight cancer in our villages, Mr. Speaker. Our people are painfully suffering. Yet out of 4.2 trillion Kenyan shillings, only we are requesting for 415 billion to go to counties to assist in the provision of healthcare in this republic. Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge, and I'm happy, I have seen a number of mediation committee members, that they should not move an inch, but ensure that 415 billion is in place, Mr. Speaker. That is what I wanted to move and ensure that we agree, Mr. Speaker, that as a Senate, the reason we are pushing more resources is to ensure that we put in place the necessary health, Mr. Speaker. With very many remarks, and I want to say, I know I have 1 hour, I know I still have 30 minutes to go, but I want to end there and allow my colleagues, Mr. Speaker, to also be able to contribute. This is, I expect all senators, and I'll be patient to listen, on the issue of cancer prevention. Mr. Speaker, the issue of cancer is a serious problem. When you go to Kisii, where Senator Gloria Orwoba comes from, I can assure you Senator Gloria Orwoba might be in 50 WhatsApp groups fundraising for cancer pensions or any other. So, Speaker, with those very many remarks, allow me to invite the Vice Chairperson of Senate Finance and Budget Committee and Nairobi delegation, Senator Tabitha Mutinda. I know there were many Tabitas, but the one and only, Senator Tabitha Mutinda, to second. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senate, what's your point of order, Gloria?
Mr. Speaker, and standing order 1, I just want to pass information, Mr. Speaker. This is a very important bill, and we probably are supporting it, Mr. Speaker, but we have highlighted the issue of our order paper, always prioritizing bills from the National Assembly, when the senators who are sitting here have so many bills that are pending and that are being queued, Mr. Speaker. I have raised this issue with the Senate Business Committee, and Mr. Speaker, it is very demoralizing that we come here as senators and we are just running business from National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. So even as we debate this, and hence the reason why you can see the lethargy in the House, it is not that we don't support the content of the issue of the bill. It It is just that the senators in the House have got so much pending business. I know that our senator here, our Matangi, he has had a motion that has been pending for over 3 weeks that has not even been put in the order paper, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to urge the Senate Business Committee to consider that this is the upper house, the Senate itself and the senators have got business that we would like prioritized, Mr. Speaker, on the order paper. Myself, this is Menstrual Hygiene Month. We are celebrating May 28th, Menstrual Hygiene Day, next week on Tuesday. My bill has been sitting in the National Assembly for 1 year, pending concurrence, Mr. Speaker. Yet in this house, we are prioritizing the National Assembly business, Mr. Speaker. I just want to put it out that it is not that we don't support this, but it is disappointing for members, and hence even when we were trying to tell Cherargei to cut short his comments, it's because it is a bill that we would like to discuss after we have prioritized our bills in the Senate, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gloria. I think we have members from SBC here, Senator Tabitha being majority leader, and Senator Tabitha Mutinda being also in the SBC. So we will leave that matter to SBC, and they will provide information to the Speaker, who should give a ruling on your point of order, Senator Gloria. Thank you. Before this motion is seconded, I have a message from the Chair. Honorable Senators, in the public gallery, we have 156 students and 3 teachers from Moi High School, Eldoret in Uasin Gishu County, who are undertaking an education visit in the Senate. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Senators, I will give an opportunity to 2 senators to welcome the students. I will give Senator Crystal Asige to welcome the senators, because among the 156 students, there are several students who are people with disability, and I think our very own VIP should be the person to give them a word of welcome. And I will also allow Senator Professor Margaret Kamar to also say 1 or 2 things to welcome the students. Senator Crystal Asige.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for the opportunity to welcome the delegation from Moi High School here this afternoon. I, of course, understand what it is like to be a young student with dreams and ambitions moving forward. And of course, trips like these to Houses of Parliament, like here in Nairobi, are very important for you to be able to see a glimpse of what may be in your future if you decide to become a leader in this country and represent your counties and your country at large. I also want, Chair, to give a special thanks and a special welcome to the students with disabilities who decided to also join the delegation and be a part of this very important experience in the Senate. To them who are here, our learners with disabilities, I am the senator in the Senate that represents PWDs, women and youth, because I am all of those 3 things. I'm a PWD myself, visually impaired, I'm a woman, and I am a youth, just like some of you are. And I just wanted to inform them that I have several bills with you in mind specifically so that your futures can be ensured as inclusive and as equitable as possible, so that you don't have to struggle like I had to struggle when I was a learner at your age in Mombasa County, trying to, fight discrimination and stereotypes and non-inclusive environments so that I can at least get an education and come to this place where I am today. I have the PWD bill, which I'm sponsoring. I have the Learners with Disabilities bill, which I'm sponsoring with my colleague behind me, Senator Kamar, and the Kenya Sign Language bill as well that I'm sponsoring. And I hope you will be able to engage with those bills, even though they might be a little bit
complicated with the language, but your teachers will definitely support you in trying to understand what they will do for you in future once passed by the executive. So I thank you again. Welcome to the Senate. And remember, especially to the PWDs in the group, that this mountain has been given to you so that you can show others that it can be moved. So feel encouraged and pursue your education with everything that you have, because you never know what is in the future. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Professor Kamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to welcome the girls from Eldoret. Mr. Speaker, I'm an old girl of Moi Girls Eldoret. I was in Moi Girls when it was Highlands. That was 1977, 78, before their mothers were born. And I want to encourage them that the sky is not the limit when it comes to education. I want to congratulate them first for getting the opportunity to go to that wonderful school. I have interacted with your teachers, and I know that you are set for higher grounds. Moi Girls, like the Highlands, which was before, has produced leaders. It has produced professionals of all kinds. So you have the opportunity to be anything that you want to be because of the way that school has been designed. You have a swimming pool for relaxation, but more than anything, you have wonderful houses. I was in Circuit myself, and I want to encourage you to use every minute that you are in school. Girls from that school, Mr. Speaker, are girls who wake up and run. They don't just walk. They run when they don't lazy themselves, and I want to encourage them that any behavior that you calculate in high school follows you for the rest of your life. I am here as an example that when I got molded in high school, I became who I am. So I want to encourage you that you can be anything. You can be a member of parliament, like I was. You can be a senator, like I am today. You can be a minister, like I was. So you have everything. Those of us who are alumni of that school are proud, and we want to encourage you and your teachers to push on, and you have what it takes to be the best. Thank you for coming, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome them on behalf of my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Professor Kamar. Seconder, you can move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let me start by putting myself on record that I do rise to second this particular bill, the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Bill that is being co-sponsored by Senator GRL Guy, yes, from the National Assembly. And before I proceed further, Mr. Speaker, let me acknowledge and state that the sentiments that have been mentioned in terms of prioritization of Senate bills, I agree with it. It's very important. But it's also good to note, a case like yesterday, you as a speaker, you were seated on your seat there, and with the help of those, so the clerks here, you had to amend the order paper because almost 3 bills, if I remember correctly, had to be skipped because the owners were not present. And I think actually today, I've seen also you've stated before this House that you have to rearrange, the order paper. So I'd also want to urge colleagues, in the event that prioritization of our bills on the order paper, also let us make an effort to be able to ensure we remove them from the order paper by ensuring that we are on the floor and try to discuss them. I support the element that Senate bills should be prioritized, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, embarking on the amendment that talks about the e-health as far as the cancer prevention is concerned, Mr. Speaker, there are 2 keywords that come aboard, that is prevention and control. Like a medical student, Mr. Speaker, I did my first practice, medical industry was pharmacy, I have dispensed, and I'm still in a position to continue to dispense and prescribe and read a prescription, Mr. Speaker. I pride in having interacted with patients and having had the opportunity to be able to offer my medical services at that particular level. And when we talk about prevention and control, it's very, very key, because at the dispensing level of a prescription, it is at a point now that you're doing a treatment. But if a prevention had been done probably earlier, then maybe a patient does not need to get to the level of that particular treatment at that particular time. Focusing on the issue of the e-health, it brings about the digital aspect. Mr. Speaker, as a digital ambassador of ICDL in this country, I advocate for digital services, digital transformations, an ideology that also the Kenya Kwanza government supports, and it's in one of our priority manifestos. Through the CS Owalo in the Ministry of ICT, we've also been able to see quite a number of improvements of the digital services, from about 300 government services to about over 15,000 government services on the e-platform, Mr. Speaker, which is a great stride and a great improvement. And so when it comes to the issue of the medical industry, it is also a very key aspect that all hospitals should be able to adapt, both public and also private. It's a very important technology at this particular time and era, because you look at where we are. It is through our gadgets that we use, be it a laptop, be it the mobile phone, that really has enhanced quick responses, quick communication, and the speedy responses as far as use of these gadgets is concerned. And so when it comes to this particular amendment of e-health, then it plays a very key role when we acknowledge that the digital services or the digital gadgets that we have and use play a very key role. We can also not only use them to make payments the way we see and make money transactions. We have M-Pesa, which has really changed lives, both at personal level and at business level. M-Pesa has come and transformed the money industry. It's a paperless money industry, Mr. Speaker, which has helped families, business people to be able to save a lot of time. Security when it comes to money matters, because you can be able to, put your money in a digital form and you are able to transact. So it is in this transformation, with the case example of M-Pesa, then we should be able to open up and allow for this change. And Mr. Speaker, as a student of business, you know that change comes with a lot of difficulty, not only in organizations, but also to individuals who before they believe that this can be done like this. We've been in a setup of, in a bigger percentage, believing that the traditional way of doing things is sort of the best way, and having a feel that this is the only way to get the best results, because there's that mentality that you have to physically go and see a doctor so that you can feel that you've really gotten the medical treatment that you deserve. But times have changed. The same way you don't really need to go to a bank and check your bank balance, but you can use your phone with the many digital platforms that we have on banking and be able to check your balance. You can be able to make bank transfers. The same way you can be able to liaise and communicate to a doctor or a medical practitioner to be able to indicate your illness, and you can be able to get guidance actually on time. And this brings about the title of the bill, which talks about prevention. Because then if you don't use the speedy mode of technology, it might delay and bring about much more issues later, Mr. Speaker. And that is because you look at cancer. Cancer, Mr. Speaker, comes in different stages. There's stage 1, there's stage 2, stage 3, and stage 3 and 4, which are very, very critical, and they're said to be the stages that you're almost at your final stages. But if you are able to note the issue of cancer at an early stage, then it becomes easier to be able to get medication at an early time, or even if you've not really have the cancer cells, but at least you can be able to know, then how do I prevent in the event that you have symptoms that are sort of leading or showing that this could be the case. And if it's not the case, then you're in a position to be well advised medically on how to prevent this particular disease, Mr. Speaker. So in matters of technology and e-health, as far as technology of ICT is concerned, is very critical. And I want to urge that the education, the universities, because mostly for you to be a fully pledged medical practitioner, more so a doctor, you have to be a graduate from the recognized university in this country or any other that is recognized worldwide as far as matters medical are concerned, so that you can be able to be certified and be able to practice as a medical doctor. It's at this point, with the discussion of the e-health, it's very important that doctors at this particular time not only concentrate with the theory part of it and the practical part of it, but also start doing the studies of ICT. And one of the easiest and one of the things, of course, I champion is certification of ICDL. ICDL is an internationally recognized certificate that as you pursue your doctorate degree, you can be able to acquire. And this actually should be mandatory during the studies of medical studies, all sectors, be it you're doing even a lab technician, you're doing pharmacy, nursing, all that range, nutritionist, all that range within the medical industry, then having certification of to be certified as an ICT knowledgeable person, both the knowledge and the practicability of it is very important, Mr. Speaker, because we cannot achieve e-health if then we do not have doctors or medical practitioners who do not even understand the basics of an ICT gadget, the basics of how to use the technology, the basics, Mr. Speaker, on how to use the different apps that are available, be it for logging in to be able to communicate with your doctor as far as a consultation is concerned, be it being able to access your prescription, being able to access a pharmaceutical or a chemist to be able to be dispensed and get the same drugs, Mr. Speaker. Let me state that also within the pharmaceutical sector, there comes also telesales. Mr. Speaker, telesales has been there. As I said, I've practiced pharmacy, and business and transactions have been done through what we call telesales. So telesales has been there, but what has not been there and really emphasized has been the e-health factor, telemedicine factor, which plays a very key role, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me to touch on the issue of disbursement of funds by Treasury. I'm talking from the perspective of why, as a Committee of Finance, we came about and settled on the 415 billion, Mr. Speaker. As I said before, these are not just figures we just wake up as finance team and just put in place. They've been brought about by different factors. Factors that range from the issue of the inflation costs, the commercial interest rates, Mr. Speaker, as well as the cost of the CHPs, the cost of the health, like you've seen, we've seen doctors having, been on strike from the different departments that they belong to, and you know very well health is devolved. So the justification of the Senate for a 415 is to ensure that the bigger chunk, because we are coming from 385, and the topper for the 415, one of the key areas that this committee, our committee was able to consider was because of this costs that are more medical. Look at the role that the CHPs are doing. They are able to go door to door. The government, through the Ministry of Health, has also equipped the CHPs in the different counties so that they are able to assist people at the lower level so as to sort them and help them at an early time. Because I've always said, and I've always championed a healthy nation, a wealthy nation, Mr. Speaker. And looking at my studies back and remembering the undergrad that most of us have done, and looking at the pastel factors that range from the political stability, the economic stability, the social, technological, legal aspect, and a conducive environment, there's nothing that stops this country, being able to ensure that we have the e-health, putting in mind that the factors that have been able to state are all in place. They are all at a well-placed position. There are no issues. Even from a social perspective, we are now socializing digitally. We are now using the digital technology to be able to do a lot, even if it comes to the Amazon app, to be able to make purchases, among many others, Mr. Speaker. What we've not really prioritized, and I'm backing it up, is the issue of the e-health service, because all these other things I've sorted, like, for example, transport issues. We have the Uber sector, that from where I'm sitting, I'm just able to get my transport from point A to point B because there's availability of the Uber, because the technology is in place. As I've said, the banking sector, I'm able to sit down and do my transaction. I can be able to pay for my goods from where I'm seated, and many other across that as far as the technology is concerned. But as far as the health part is concerned, we've really lagged behind, but this bill comes at a very good time because the e-health factor is a very key and important factor, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to ignore the issue of the they're called attachees or interns that have been mentioned earlier. Interns play a key role. And for us, as a country, with the education system that we have, it requires our students in the upper learning level to undergo the theoretical part of studies, and then also to have an opportunity to practice and to be able to understand how the industry works. I remember during my studies as a pharmacy student, by then, before I changed my career, Mr. Speaker, I had to do internship. I had to do an attachment. Then without that, I could not qualify to be able to move to the final level, to be able to graduate if I've not been able to do internship. So internship plays a key role. So the matters of interns, the JSCC team that I've had today, I mean, all these things should be just consolidated, because then how do we have competent personnel, either from the legal sector, either from the medical sector, and any other sector, if we do not allow them to be much more practical and be able to perform by giving them opportunities, and those opportunities do not come free. They need to be paid. I'm happy because Parliament has been fair. It gives young people an opportunity to be interns, to have attachment in this institution of Parliament. And I'm happy because Parliament pays them. It is not free. There are institutions whereby you're just an attachee, but there's no single coin. It is still an expenditure to you. But Parliament does remunerate the students, and it's a good plus. So the same should be emulated to also our other people, the lab technicians, the other students that are within these industries. I'm seeing my time is up, Mr. Speaker. I seem to have a lot, but now I'll just try and sum it up and say that it is the high time we adapt. And I want to urge the mediation committee that had been set in place to defend the 415 for governors. We've seen National Assembly on matters of CDF, their monies have actually been increased. The monies that we are asking for governors to be able to receive, most of these monies, and actually the bigger chunk of the additional fund that we gave is mostly going to the health sector, putting in mind that health is devolved. It is very sad, Mr. Speaker, to be entering into the premises of Parliament, and then once you meet our young people, our medics, who play a very key role. There's no way you go to a hospital and you just see directly the doctor. You have a channel. You have to do the lab tests. You have to do different consultations before you get to the final part. So everyone within that industry plays a key role. And most of these funds are to be able to take care of our people at a lower level. Case example, the role that the CHP plays. So these monies that we allocated as a committee should be taken seriously. Mr. Speaker, during the COVID time, it was a time that the effect of COVID was a worldwide effect, Mr. Speaker. And we changed and adapted the technology of Zoom very fast. So an indication that we don't have really to wait when it's critical, and then that's when we want to act. It is a high time we embrace and move away from the old formula of still having to physically go see the doctor so that you can get your medication and be able to be sorted, but we can use the technology. Mr. Speaker, I had Senator Cheryl Guy talk about women in terms of they are the ones who really have the highest percentage when it comes to taking care of their health. It is very true, Mr. Speaker. Men have really lagged behind when it comes to the issues of health because the rate of ignorance of even a small headache, it's very high, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say that actually the higher rate of death today, it is more in men than in women. You know, women, we are so talented because we are multitaskers. We are able to do so many things. You could be having a headache. You're still running around in the house, taking care of the children. But we still do not forget to be able to take care of ourselves. And that's what brings about much of the difference. So, you know, we've said women like shouting and talking too much. It's what we run around with, unlike men who are just focused on one item. But when it comes to their health, the rate of ignorance has been very high. And we want to urge male and men to prioritize, because we need you in this country. We need you for the role that you play and you continue playing. This technology will also be able to help our young children. Cancer had been known to affect mostly the a bit elderly people, but nowadays, even young children as less than 1 year, our young kids are getting this particular disease. But the earlier we embark on these new technologies, then the better for us to be able to have a healthy nation, a wealthy nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do second.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment Number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bills Number 45 of 2022, be now read a second time. Honorable Senators, we will now debate. We'll allow debate on this bill. Senator of Nyeri, Wamatinga.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to support. Mr. Speaker, sir, for those of us who've chosen to remain with our people after election, one of the major issues that we've been fighting is contributions in aid of people seeking treatment, both within and outside our boundaries. Mr. Speaker, sir, indeed, it has become one of the major challenges socially because of the kind of facilities that we have in the country. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, such a proposal to have e-health, application of artificial intelligence, to not only collect data, but also use the same to work towards a prevention, early treatment, or a detection mechanism, it has come at optimum time. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would want by starting to thank the President, His Excellency William Samoei Ruto, for directing the members of National Assembly to introduce internet hubs in all the wards across the country. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, will allow increment in the rate of IT literacy. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also a plus from the Kenya Kwanza government that they introduced the community health workers who have been equipped with kits to collect data. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know early detection of cancer can save life. We know that when cancer detected at the early age, it is curable. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that one of the sectors that have been affected by limitations of resources, Mr. Speaker, is lack of allocation in the health sector. Mr. Speaker, sir, almost in all 47 counties, there is a uniform cry about the standard of our health systems, our health facilities, and indeed, the improvement, the availability of technology that will enable us to detect and to cure or treat cancer. As a resource, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are conducting various fundraising to take our patients to India, South Africa, to those who can afford it, to London and USA. It is a high time, Mr. Speaker, sir, as we move towards the Social Health Insurance Fund, that we ensure that health becomes affordable to every Kenyan. This cannot be done, Mr. Speaker, without trying to create an interface, without trying to create a leverage with the modern technology that's available across other countries and across other platforms. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, introduction of e-health will give us an opportunity to be able to leverage the available technology, to leverage the available data related to family for those which are genetically diseases that are in the families. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me also to note that application of artificial intelligence in not only the health sector, but also in electricity, in water, will ensure that we do a most needed thing towards achieving economies of scale. It will also allow us, Mr. Speaker, sir, to share technologies across platform. It will also allow us, Mr. Speaker, to be able to use expertise that is available in other parts of the world. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, will ensure that our cost services, our health services becomes affordable, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, that we have the appropriate application of technology that will be geared towards improving the livelihood of Kenyans. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, it is also very, very important that we note health being a devolved function, that we as senators continue fighting for the allocation of the 415 billion as proposed, so that as we develop the platforms to be applied by the county governments and the national government, we can also allow easy data interchange between counties. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know most of the facilities, especially the referral facilities, are used by different counties and different communities. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, having easily accessible data about the patients who come to this hospital will ensure that they get the best services. And it has been reported previously, Mr. Speaker, that people have been misdiagnosed. We know that even amputations have been conducted longly, Mr. Speaker, largely because of lack of information. Using e-platform, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is a possibility that you can use a doctor in India to conduct an operation using technology that's used in UK. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, will ensure that we get maximum benefit of our health services while ensuring that the cost benefit is also ascertained. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that this country is one of the many countries in Africa that's suffering from low technology. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, application of e-health will ensure that transferability, mobility, and indeed application of e-services through artificial intelligence will be enhanced, and therefore our people will enjoy more and more advanced services from our hospitals. Mr. Speaker, sir, we know that Kenya has produced some of the best doctors. Most of them, Mr. Speaker, they end up after their studies and work experience going to foreign countries to work there. This brain drain, Mr. Speaker, sir, can only be stopped if we compensate them appropriately, and that cannot happen, Mr. Speaker, sir, so long as we do not have the right technology that will ensure that our people get the right services. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I wind up so that I can give my colleagues also a chance to contribute, it is important to note that the success of devolution cannot be ascertained, cannot be fulfilled, cannot be met unless we ensure that services in health delivery are efficient. Mr. Speaker, sir, we can leverage these from lessons learned, and we do not need to rediscover the wheel. We know that most of the Western countries, especially India, have specialized in medical tourism. We can make Kenya a medical destination by ensuring that we have the right technologies, and this can be leveraged by using artificial intelligence. I would want, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I sit down, to commend Jomo Kenyatta University Hospital, because in a short span of time, we've seen them apply and employ
technologies that have reduced the number of Kenyans seeking treatment abroad. What we need to do, Mr. Speaker, sir, we need now to bridge the gap between those people going there at stage 3 and 4 of the cancer and ensure that we get early discovery by ensuring that we have not only information from family tree, but we have also put technologies in place so that we can ensure that testing is done at the appropriate time so that we can arrest cases that would otherwise be fatal. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is the duty of every senator to support this because health being a devolved function, we know that it will ensure that we give better services to our people, and that being the case, save a lot of money in terms of money that we are paying in foreign hospitals by taking our patients down there and ensuring that the country also earns more resources by ensuring that we get the neighboring countries to come enjoy health services that will apply the appropriate technology, and that is the artificial intelligence. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support.
Senator Gloria Orwoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to support this bill, the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill from the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my submissions are from a personal experience, Mr. Speaker. In 2022, just right before we were conducting party primaries, my father passed away from cancer, Mr. Speaker. And it was very shocking because just maybe 4 weeks before that is when we had gotten the right diagnosis of the cancer. Actually, just to be told that it was cancer, Mr. Speaker. Before that, we had gone to different, because it was, he was diabetic, he had, and also he was an elderly citizen. So we had gone to many hospitals just to get the right diagnosis, Mr. Speaker. And eventually when we were told that it's cancer, but they were not quite sure which cancer, and so they wanted his body to, we were told you need to put him on a diet so that he can be able to gain back the strength, so that he can so that when they do the proper diagnosis, they'd be able to know which particular cancer it was, Mr. Speaker. But we didn't even get to that point because I think 3.5 or 4 weeks after the diagnosis, it was a time when also there was COVID and, at that time we're not quite sure. If you'd get sick, they would say, okay, maybe it's COVID before we are sure and you isolate. So there was that period. And Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, when we were trying to get to the bottom of which cancer or how we were going to approach the treatment, he passed on, Mr. Speaker. But 2 things were very clear to begin with. One, even to get the proper diagnosis in Kenya of which cancer, it takes a lot of consultations, many appointments, waiting lines. If you go to Kenyatta National Hospital, if you go to Coptic, the private ones, the level 4s, level 5s, level 6, just to get the right diagnosis is the first problem, Mr. Speaker. And when I was looking at this Cancer Prevention Control Bill, my first thought was perhaps even the data that we are pushing to have digital devices and digital approach on how we are looking at the healthcare system and cancer in particular. The data also should be able to tell you, and perhaps this is an amendment that they should add, they should have specific data to show you that this institution or this medical center is actually a specialist in ABCD kind of cancer, Mr. Speaker. That way, you are not also moving from one hospital to another hospital, trying to figure out what is right. The data, the truth is in the data. There are certain healthcare providers who are actually specializing in certain cancers, and that would be also an added advantage to be able to know through the data that in the event that there is that the doctor suspects that it could be a certain type of cancer, whether blood or what, then they can be able to say, based on the data that we have had in the past and the treatments and the early diagnosis, maybe you should go to this particular hospital to get your proper diagnosis, Mr. Speaker. So one of the reasons I support this is also up until now in 2024, we actually don't seem to have a centralized point of data, a true source of data where you can go in and as an end user, as a Kenyan, you can actually see that in the event that unfortunately I'm suffering from this particular kind of disease, this hospital has specialists in ABCD, Mr. Speaker. And I think the introduction of e-health and digital systems and platforms which are easily accessible by Kenyans can help cure that particular issue of how to ensure that you get your early diagnosis without having to travel from different cities or, just relying on information by well-wishers or, people who just don't have the data that is required, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as I said, this is very personal to me because up till today, as a family, we are still trying to figure out, is there anything that we could have done that probably would have helped that particular situation? And I don't think that any family member who has lost a family member through cancer ever gets closure in terms of, is there anything else they could have done, Mr. Speaker? We only talk about early diagnosis and early treatment. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes when you have your diagnosis and it's not early diagnosis, sometimes they tell you you're in stage 4. And maybe they say you have a week or 2 weeks to live, Mr. Speaker. Does that mean that then the dignity of Kenyans should not be looked into, the management of that cancer, the management of, let's say, your final days, so to speak, Mr. Speaker? These are also some of the conversations that I know as Africans we shy away from talking about. But as we're looking at all these very exciting opportunities to revolutionize our healthcare sector by digitizing, the platforms and things, we should also remember that cancer is a reality. We have cancer survivors. We have people who are living with cancer for many years. And so the issue of managing the symptoms or whichever state or situation that you should also be factored in such a way that when the data is being collected or when the data or the platforms is being given, it should also offer that opportunity so that you can understand that if in the event, because some people also choose not to go for treatment, is there an option to go to a specific healthcare facility to actually get, quality of life as you prepare to go to meet your maker, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on this cancer prevention and control bill, I know we are talking about how to ensure that Kenyans have that direct access through the digital platforms, Mr. Speaker. But I cannot highlight, I have to highlight the fact that our community health promoters, who, as you know, the Kenya Kwanza government has actually facilitated and empowered with digital devices which have specific applications where they can actually be able to manage the communities. Every community health promoter gets about, I think, 20 families that they're dealing with, and they're able to do, routine calls. They're able to, even without them being called by that specific family or member who's on that platform, they're able to just go and check up and say, okay, today we have, we're doing high blood pressure tests and things like that. I think this cancer prevention and control bill, as they're highlighting the e-health and the digital platforms, they should also remember that we have an existing app under our community health promoters that can actually benefit immensely from whatever proposal is here. So it's about synergizing, not creating new platforms and then having to move people from one place to another, but about synergizing with the existing platforms that are there, and that includes the community health promoters. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, and especially in Kenya, for those of us who have lived abroad, we know the advantage of being in this country, Mr. Speaker. That's why we came back. One of the advantages is that Kenya is actually very, very advanced in terms of e-commerce, Mr. Speaker. It is probably only in Kenya where you can order anything online that can be delivered to your house, Mr. Speaker. I know many people don't know this, but most of these platforms and e-commerce activities that we have the privilege to access do not even exist in countries like Denmark and Sweden, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, Kenya is probably one of the first 1st countries in Africa where you can go on a platform such as My Dawa and order for painkillers or whatever other medicines that you would like to have, Mr. Speaker. This is something that we don't celebrate enough. In fact, to an extent that when we are talking about the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill, and in terms of telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, I doubt that many people are aware that telemedicine is actually already happening. It's just that maybe we have not regularized it, we have not put a legal framework, but we have platforms such as Uber, which have so many pharmacies that are listed on, and not only that, in other platforms, they even have doctors who are giving WhatsApp services in terms of not really diagnosis, but if you are seeking some consultation on maybe a long-term illness or management of, situations such as diabetes and things like that. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we are talking about this, maybe what we need to streamline is how will we bring all these digital platforms and e-health systems and telemedicine proposals into one regulatory authority, Mr. Speaker, because that's what's lacking. Today, if you order medicines from an online platform and by, unfortunately, they are probably expired or they are not, approved by KEBS, you don't know where to start because the platform is legal, but you don't know who to hold accountable in a situation like that, Mr. Speaker. So I hope that part of the amendments that could come here is also to ensure how do we safeguard the lives of Kenyans as we are trying to move to digital platforms and all these advanced systems such as AI and all these advanced, digital world, let me say proposals, Mr. Speaker, because at the end of the day, I think we as legislators have the duty of care to ensure that we are introducing laws or amendments that will not turn around and actually be very harmful to Kenyans that are out there, Mr. Speaker. However, having said that, I support this bill. Mr. Speaker, I just want to highlight, and maybe for purposes of the Ministry of Health, there is a very big problem in terms of the queues that we have in our public hospitals on the issue of cancer treatment and diagnosis, Mr. Speaker. As I speak now, I think that's why Senator Cherargei probably highlighted, I am dealing with a family who is trying to take their father to a hospital. He needs urgent medical care in terms of cancer treatment because he's on stage 4. And all the hospitals, the public hospitals that he goes to, they are all stating that, this hospital has a 6-month waiting. Kenyatta National Hospital, in terms of the specific treatment that needs, has up to 2-year waiting for you to be taken in, Mr. Speaker. And so when you look at even the waiting lines, someone is telling you that you have been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and for you to get the immediate treatment, you have to wait 2 years if you have to go to Kenyatta National Hospital, for instance. And then when we tried to get the option of a private hospital, Mr. Speaker, because the gentleman is actually insured under NHIF, Mr. Speaker, we got a clear written feedback that yes, you can come for treatment, it can start immediately, but we do not accept NHIF, Mr. Speaker, and we do not accept certain, all these proposed insurance, medical covers from government, Mr. Speaker. So maybe I want to highlight that, and to the Ministry of Health, particularly to our Cabinet Secretary, we have to be intentional on how we are dealing with these wait times in our public institution for cancer treatment. And Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether it's too much to ask, but I even think that a special working group should be put together to see how we can either solve through maybe even subsidizing for some of those people to go to private hospitals just so that we can reduce the wait time. But I don't think that it sits well that we are legislators, we are leaders, and we are okay with knowing that Kenyatta National Hospital, the waiting time for anyone who's coming in for any cancer treatment is 2 years, for instance, Mr. Speaker. We always have ad hoc committees and special committees to deal with pending bills, to deal with Kenya Airways, Mr. Speaker. But I think we actually need a committee that needs to sit down with the Ministry of Health to deal with how we are going to cut down all that waiting time and the long queues of cancer patients who are waiting to be treated in public hospitals, Mr. Speaker. I think, and maybe, and I know that the proper way would be to now bring a statement, or maybe I'll find another channel, but it's something that we need to highlight. It's been going on for years and years, and nobody is actually doing anything about it, Mr. Speaker. Having said that, I want to say that I support this cancer prevention and control bill, and I do hope that this will be the beginning of the end of all the frustration that Kenyans are having to go through just to deal with cancer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mungatana.
So, Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to make my contribution to this bill. Mr. Speaker, this is not the primary bill on cancer prevention and control, but this is an amendment bill. Mr. Speaker, it is an amendment bill because when they passed the initial legislation to set up the Cancer Institute, one of the things they left out is the question of e-health, Mr. Speaker. The question of telemedicine was left out. So, Mr. Speaker, the primary purpose of this bill really is to amend Section 5 of the parent bill, and that Section 5 was set up, but in reality, this amendment would make sure that the National Cancer Institute and its functions would be expanded so that it would include the promotion and use of e-health and telemedicine for the prevention and management of cancer. It would include the promotion and management of persons with cancer as a component of primary health care. And it would secure and regulate the use of e-health in cancer management and the provision of cancer diagnosis, treatment, and rehabilitation services and other medical care related to cancer. So, Mr. Speaker, the actual purpose of this amendment is to support the primary cancer law that had already been passed and had not taken care of the use of e-health. Mr. Speaker, every time we hear about cancer, and from my own experience, I would want to state clearly that I would support anybody and anything that would say we're going to fight cancer. Because, Mr. Speaker, cancer took away one of the most important people in my life. Mr. Speaker, when I lost my father, it was a very tough situation for me because I grew up watching this old man, and he was there for us. He was there for me. And in many ways, I failed to live to his expectation. But, Mr. Speaker, that man influenced my life in a way that I would do anything to help him be comfortable. And, Mr. Speaker, I didn't know he was suffering from cancer because it's sort of my younger brother, who is a doctor, knew the actual facts, but he decided to, for his own good reason, to sort of keep it away from us. So for those of us who are not very learned in these matters of medicine, we didn't know. But I remember my father was in pain, and he graduated from using painkillers that were small until he started using very strong painkillers. And still, He was this kind of total African man who would not say what, and he would not show any weakness. But, and all my life, I never saw him sick, you know. But one day, I heard my father make his normal prayer. He used to wake up and pray at exactly 5:10. And he would pray and pray and pray for everyone. But in this particular day, I heard him pray, and he said, Lord, if it is possible, take this pain away from me. Let me rest. And I realized we were in the final stages of spending the time that we had with this old man. My father left us when he was 72. And it was a very painful experience for all of us in the family because we really were close to him. So anything to do with fighting this burden of cancer, Mr. Speaker, I would be the first person to support this. And Mr. Speaker, the burden of cancer in this country is a great burden, Mr. Speaker. When you look at the status report of 2023 in Kenya, they said that there are 5 types of cancers that bear 48% of the burden of the cancer disease in Kenya. Mr. Speaker, the first one is a breast cancer. There's cervical cancer. There's prostate cancer. There's esophagus cancer. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma type of cancer. These 5 types, they are the ones that take 48% of the burden of cancer according to the status report of 2022-2023. So, Mr. Speaker, if you look at breast cancer, for example, and we have had here that when it reaches stage 4, there's really very little that you can do, just like most other cancers. But if we have e-health, if we have telemedicine, Mr. Speaker, it is possible to educate people, to let people know what can be done at the stage that it is still curable. So, Mr. Speaker, like breast cancer, if we have enough e-health interventions at the family level, at the health promoters level, if we have enough information trickling down to that very level, Mr. Speaker, people would know that they have to check themselves, for example. They would have, for those who have husbands, to check for anything that is abnormal so that, Mr. Speaker, it becomes preventable, it becomes treatable, it becomes detected at a stage where it can be dealt with. Mr. Speaker, prostate cancer, if you have e-health information, if you have telemedicine reaching to places and interventions in that area, in that space, reaching to people in places where maybe even doctors don't go normally, Mr. Speaker, it is possible to deal with prostate cancer at an early stage and treat it. Mr. Speaker, I believe this amendment is very good for us, and it is helping us take this fight to where cancer is. Information is power, Mr. Speaker, and we need this information. Mr. Speaker, every time you use information to reach people, when people have information, they are able to then deal with the situations. Mr. Speaker, e-health gives us certain interventions, whether you are already going through treatments, whether you are at the stage of preventing or preventive medicine. E-health gives us interventions that can be very useful and life-saving. For example, Mr. Speaker, if you have gone for your normal checkup and e-health is there to give you reminders to your phone, Mr. Speaker, over your WhatsApp, over your text messages, over your email, that there is this reminder, you need to do certain things. Then, Mr. Speaker, e-health has become your lifesaver, because some of these things, if you have reminders, they can come in to assist you. Mr. Speaker, there is sometimes online support, direct online support from some of these applications. The previous senator has just told us how various applications that exist in Kenya are able to support treatment or even diagnosis or early interventions through e-health, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thirdly, you would find that within the space of e-health, there are a lot of web-based technology and information that one can actually go and start reading on these matters. And this information is all there. The only problem is that most Kenyans, and I believe most people, they would not be bothered about anything to do, say, with heart attack or potential for heart attack until a family member, the wife, a child, or somebody suffers from those. That's when everybody goes to read. Everybody goes to take web information, internet information. Nobody really bothers about that information unless it is directly affecting them, Mr. Speaker. But when we have these e-health interventions, and people have become so techno nowadays, Mr. Speaker, the people are even able to count the steps they have taken in the course of the day. People are able to do the amount of calories they have burnt in the course of the day. People are able to work out. So within that space, if e-health is promoted as this bill, this amendment proposes, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to have the information coming to us where we are, even where we are seated here debating, Mr. Speaker, or somebody teaching in a classroom at the university, or teaching at the primary school, or even himself treating somebody else. Some prompting can come to your own phone, Mr. Speaker, to tell you now it's time, you need to go and do this and that for the sake of your own health, Mr. Speaker. So this bill ought to be supported by the Senate. And it should be given all the support so that we can promote e-health, we can promote e-medicine. Mr. Speaker, before COVID-19 came, we never used to think beyond the traditional methods of treatment. If you are feeling unwell, you would want to go to the doctor. But when COVID came, we realized that in fact, it is possible to treat yourself by just logging into a doctor or actually having a virtual appointment with your doctor. And you don't have to go to him or to her. They can actually give you directions from where you are on how to treat yourself. And Mr. Speaker, it is something that has saved a lot of lives. And it takes time, but eventually we will get there, Mr. Speaker. I know that even here in Nairobi, there are many people who haven't quite gotten into that telemedicine. But Mr. Speaker, we will get there. I know that people would take, even in rural setups, like in my county, they would take those images for x-rays when they were working. Nowadays, they are not really working. But when they used to work, they would take those images and ask somebody to read those images. So you don't have to travel all the way to get an interpretation of the x-ray image. And Mr. Speaker, appropriate treatment is given even from a very far off place. Mr. Speaker, for those of us who are practitioners of the law, you would remember very well, because you are also one of us, Mr. Speaker, that there was a time, if you have a court case in Mombasa or in Kisumu, you are not able to take the brief in Garissa, maybe a golden brief, a well-paying one. You are not able to combine those briefs because you had to travel there physically to go and attend to court. But Mr. Speaker, nowadays, you can be here in Nairobi and you are addressing a judge who is seated in Malindi at the Court of Appeal. And you finish your case, and you can also be addressing a judge in the High Court in Kisumu or the High Court in Nakuru because of intervention of internet. So, Mr. Speaker, in the same manner, it took a long time, like those old guys like ourselves who are used to physical court and still believed that really there's no real court until you go there yourself in person. It took some time, but we adjusted. So the encouragement here is that even Kenyans, it may take some time on this telemedicine. It may take some time on these concepts of e-health, especially in fighting scourges or these animals, big animals and big scourges like cancer. It may take some time, but we will get there because a few people will adapt, especially the younger ones. Then it will grow, and then finally it will be normal for us to obtain treatment, for us to do consultancies over the phone, for us to depend on our phones for the necessary promptings for the sake of our own good health and well-being. So, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of reason to say that this amendment is a good amendment, and any person who will be speaking to it, I urge that they support this amendment so that we can have a better way of fighting cancer. Mr. Speaker, we, especially who are coming from the rural counties, you find that specialists, for them to travel all the way to Hola, all the way to Madogo, all the way to Garissa, is a very expensive affair. But a specialist sitting in Nairobi can actually advise a doctor to interpret a situation in Hola referral and be able to administer treatment. And those are the benefits of this telemedicine and e-health that we are trying to support in this bill. And Mr. Speaker, very many cancer patients, we believe, going into the future will benefit from this legislation. And they will not have to be paying so much as it is today, to have to travel all the way from the rural areas to come for diagnosis, to come for specialist advice in the places where they are located, like in Mombasa or in Nairobi County. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe with all my heart that this is a bill and we should support it, and I pray that every person who would speak to it would support. So, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support this amendment. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mungatana. I now call upon Senator Kibwana Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Senator Mungatana has taken all my words, but much has been said, Mr. Speaker, on this. And I remember, I have been the crafter of the e-health bill. And when you talk about e-health, of course, I was looking at the same. So I had already focused on the telemedicine and e-health in general. And I had gone for another meeting, Mr. Speaker, but then when I realized that this issue, the cancer prevention and control, is being discussed, I said I must chip in because it has been very dear to me. Me being in the health committee, I brought up these issues. I've lost many members of my family out of cancer. Mr. Speaker, early screening of cancer should be sensitized. Cancer is largely a disease that is inherited. So looking at mapping out of families early enough will prevent this. We have the genomics lab that is near Kenyatta Hospital. Most people don't make use of it. And also Kenyatta Cancer Center. We have it, and I guess they can do early screening. So if you go deeper into our family history, early enough, it will knock out the early stages of cancer, Mr. Speaker. Young people are dying of cancer, Mr. Speaker. The other day, I lost my nephew, who was only 30 years old. He had just gotten married. He was 8 months before his death, unfortunately, and he didn't even have any children. It was really, really sad to see him go through the pain. You can't believe, Mr. Speaker, his pain only lasted for 8 months. That's when we knew that he had cancer. And he passed on, you know, without us getting to understand better when the pain started and how it progressed to his death. Mr. Speaker, there's something called Lee-Fromeni syndrome. I learned about it, and I hear this one predisposes people to multiple cancer. 100%, once you get it, for women it's 100%, that it's a death sentence, and for men it's 75%. So you can imagine. But then with this one, it's not known to many doctors, Mr. Speaker. So you find, even in this country, we don't have no policy, no screening protocol on Lee-Fromeni syndrome. Such kind of syndromes, Mr. Speaker, could be the reason why we are seeing the high rate of cancer. Mr. Speaker, I remember there was a documentary, was it Meru? They tried to do some research on Meru, and whereas they found many men were dying out of throat cancer. Now, this one, I guess, in fact, what they were trying to get, I think what the researchers got is that there were chemicals that were being sprayed on the mirror. So when they're, plucking out the mirror, they're chewing at the same time. So no cleaning, no nothing of mirror. So you found, a whole area of, in that sector, many men were dying, and all of them were diagnosed with throat cancer. Then nowadays, you even find the chemicals that we use on the hair also does have cancer. I mean, it's a trigger for cancer. And there are many other things. Using sugar, Mr. Speaker, white, flour, and many other kind of, eating habits that we have, they all trigger cancer, Mr. Speaker. So what I'm saying is that our young people, we need to have these testing kits anytime. And the government should invest and build capacity on genomic equipment. And actually the footprint is quite big since there's no need of bringing new equipment. Mr. Speaker, the country invested so much during COVID on genomics. We did, and so these systems are there. And so we only have to use them. So it's only buying the cancer screening kits and training, capacity training that is required, Mr. Speaker, for cancer. Mr. Speaker, I hear there's the rapid diagnostic kits that have come now, but then they're still on test So I really want to urge the government also to invest on this one. So you really don't have to go out of your way, you know, to go to hospitals and all that, yet you have, you know, the rapid diagnostic kit. I want to believe it's just like when you want to test like the pregnancy test and the COVID test that we had. You could just use them and get to understand, you know, where you are. The instruments, Mr. Speaker, that we have in the country, we should use the biomedical and biomedical engineers to operationalize, to install, and to train people on Kenyans. And this actually, it should go across the country. I'm sure we'll achieve our goal because the instruments or maybe the equipments are there, but then we don't have, you know, the equipments are not being serviced. So we can use this people called the biomedical engineers to actually train to install them. And so the instruments can function all over across the country, then we can achieve. Mr. Speaker, we now need to invest in doctors. Again, I'll speak again on genomic testing, just to become the national algorithm for early screening. Seriously, now, someone told me the second killer in Kenya, it's cancer. The second or third, it's cancer. So we are not even going out, you're not looking maybe so much about HIV or anything. Imagine it's all about cancer. The food that we eat, our young people, you know what they're exposed of. Even when you're told now, even when you don't have enough, when you don't get enough sleep, then you're bound to get cancer. When you're any kind of, actually even the eating habit, so we only have to go to our traditional food again, so as, you know, not to avoid such. Now there's also precision medicine. The precision medicine, Mr. Speaker, generally, it identifies the specific drug target that once we have the genomic map of the country, so this will help in terms of precision medicine. This precision medicine, Mr. Speaker, it targets, you know, specific drug target, and exactly, and it will lead the doctor to exactly what the doctor wants to test or wants to diagnose. Then we have, actually, Mr. Speaker, looking at the economy, it's being, the economy, I mean, looking at the age of 28 to 51, they're the ones who drive the economy. And the young ones are also dying. You know, 20% of young people are you know, also dying. Mr. Speaker, most of the time when Kenyans were rushing to India, we were all going for the PET scan. Now, it's also unfortunate that it's only in Aga Khan Hospital and KUTRH that those are the only two PET scans we have in the country. It is painful, it is sad with this time and era. I am wondering what the government is doing about it, because I don't understand why. And I remember most of our people were dying because we had to go to India now to do the PET scan for you to test. One of my brothers, Mr. Speaker, he was almost 40 years. He started having a back pain, just back pain. And so it became severe. So when you took him to hospital, just back pain, imagine he was told he had cancer. And then they said, I think it's only stage 1, but then you need to get treatment as soon as possible. So we decided, no, let's take him to India. And it didn't take 3 weeks. You can't believe by the time we were getting to India, they said, look, after doing the PET scan, he had stage 4 cancer, and he passed on. So I feel sad that Kenya is still lagging behind on this issue, you know, of cancer. And now that it's I should say, in fact, I feel strongly that it's #1 killer disease. Because, you know, cancer, you don't go through pain when you get cancer. Only after it has advanced, then you feel the pain. So you can imagine. So if you don't have these kits, how would you know? My nephew died within 8 months. And his was fully blown. How did he get it? He wasn't in pain. You know, my brother was the same. So I feel strongly, this, of course, and you know, Mr. Speaker, cancer is generic. That's why I'm saying you really need to get into family history and understand, you know, the issues. So once you know that at least the family history has that. Mr. Speaker, in UAE, every 2 years, you are bound to have, the government has put it as policy that you have to go through colonoscopy and endoscopy. Now, once you go through that, then there's at least the tests, you know, will bring you, I mean, it is so clear whether you have it or not. The prostate cancer now, Mr. Speaker, it's the same. So this telemedicine and e-medicine actually will prevent and maybe control once we have it in place. Mr. Speaker, I'll finish by saying the government has to invest on this, Mr. Speaker. Just the way we invested on COVID, then the cancer has to be invested on. We are losing lives, we are losing our children, we are losing our young ones nowadays. But instead of, you know, parents being buried, I mean, it's parents who are burying their own children, maybe through the same cancer and the rest. It's quite painful. I say it again, between 16 and 50 years, looking at the data, have 51% of these cases, yet the most active stage in life and has a direct, you know, economic impact. Mr. Speaker, I urge again, and I really support these amendments, that there's every need that we may have that Cancer Prevention Control Act and amendments in, on telemedicine and regulate the use of e-health. Mr. Speaker, I did this. I had, of course, my own e-health bill, which has been, until now, taken by the government. I take pride on this one. And, of course, I have decided it will not, of course, move without putting a fight on amendments, because I realize such amendments are not there on the e-health, which is now the so-called digital health bill. Mr. Speaker, I support this amendment, and I thank you for giving me this time.
Thank you, Senator Hamida. Now call Senator Keroche.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I also rise to support this bill, the Cancer Prevention and Control Amendment. Let's say prevention is better than cure, and I think this is one of the best bills that we've had, and we should all support it, because we know all of us have suffered, as Cherangai put it here. If it's not you, maybe a member of your family, maybe your neighbor or a friend. So it is something that is everywhere, and it is a disease that keeps on rising, and I think it's because of that lack of prevention and control. And if everybody did the right thing, how things need to be done, I think we can achieve what we are looking for. The government should put it a priority to ensure that whatever Kenyans are eating, it is meets the standard that is required. Be it drinking or eating the food. I was surprised to see the other day about the maize, the aflatoxin. And this is just maize that we can dry it well, but you'll realize that because of maybe we need this ugali quickly, so people just go take that maize, and they know very well when they are taken to the market, it was not done, it was not dried the right way. When it's taken to the Kenya Bureau will see the aflatoxin maybe is high, but it still releases it to the market. So this is, I think, one of the things that the government need to take priority to ensure that whatever their Kenyan people eat meets the right standard. And the medicines that are put in their shelves, they also meet the standard. The pesticides that are used to pesticide our food, the same. They are used by our farmers. Even the pesticides that we use to kill the insects and all that in our homes, the same. But it must meet the standard that are set internationally. And as Senator Hamida puts it, the early diagnostic in every county, I think we should have those machines put in the level 5 hospitals and level 4 to ensure that it's part of the day-to-day, the lifestyle of our people, that they are made to understand that they need to do early diagnostic. Even if you don't have a history of your family having gotten cancer, we should take it initiative to ensure that the county government put all those machines in the level 4 and 5, and the doctors keeps on reminding people, and when they look at the record and they see you've taken a year before doing the test, they have to keep on telling people that you need to do in every year, like the way we do the other disease, on how we need to do the prevention. We should also take cancer as one of those things that we need to market as a government and ensure that we ensure that people understand that they need to do this prevention and control, because we can pass a bill, but if the people are not aware, it will not help. And then, of course, when it comes to our hospitals, to ensure that we have the right equipment in our hospitals, especially in the county government, in our county governments, to ensure that we have the right hospitals. And if you look at the other part, the developed world, you'll see where everybody maybe is going. They are going to look for medical support from abroad. Those are the developed world. You'll see that they've taken care of the hospitals. You go to London, you go to India, you go to America, that's why they've taken care of their hospitals. So even us, we should do the same. The 47 counties should ensure that we have the right hospitals, the right doctors that are able to treat our people, so that when you're talking of prevention and control of our cancer, we already are equipped from the county government to the national government. But we cannot just be talking and yet we are telling our people prevention and we don't have the right things we put in place to ensure that this prevention and control is taken care of. And of course, encourage private investors to put hospitals, because I know with the support of the government and the county government and the private investors, if they put the right hospitals with the right equipment, we'll do this prevention and control at an early stage. And then, of course, we as brothers and sisters, we become the brother's keeper. You become your brother's keeper to ensure that whatever you do, you do it as you would want it to be done to you. I'm talking this when you're a farmer, there in the farm. You know very well that what you need, the steps that you need to take to ensure that the food that you're pesticiding, that it doesn't go to the market before the time given, it is complete. Because I've seen even cows. You can see somebody has injected a cow, and they know very well this cow should not be eaten. But because they can see it, so it has no, it's not in this taken to the butchery. I remember, and I keep on saying, even for people to be alive is just, I think, by God. Because I know there is a time that during our times you could see an animal is not feeling well, but the farmer doesn't want to waste that animal. He will take it to the butchery and people will have that meat. So I think become the brother's keeper, so that whatever you do, you are doing it as you'd want it to be done to you. Because for you, when you knock the shop, you don't know what was put there in the shop, whether it has made the standard. But you only buy believing because it has the diamond mark, or it has been put in that shop. So meaning, if everybody took care and did this prevention and control as you'd want done to you, I think we'll achieve somewhere, and we'll ensure that cancer diseases are controlled in a way that other parts of the world are doing, so that we don't keep on seeing our brothers, our neighbors, our families dying on things that should be prevented. I know people have suffered, and as I think Cherengai put it, anytime we are going to those, back to the villages, to our homes, the things that you find there is just harambis to support these families, to ensure that they can get medical support. But I also, maybe the government, can they put up a kitty that can also support to ensure that people don't have to go through, especially the people who have no, jobs. But I'm happy that this whatever that the doctor has come up with, I think it will help a lot to ensure that the way the government came with a bill, and we passed it here, that now those diseases that are what are they called? The terminal diseases, the terminal illness, that now the doctor will, the government has put an insurance that will ensure that these people will get the medical support when they go to the hospitals. But the main thing, I think, is to prevent, so that we don't get to our people suffering. Because even if you get those, Kitty, as the senator of Tanaliva is saying, the way he saw his dad is suffering, even if he was given those free medical, whatever, if there was something that could have done to prevent him not to get to that disease, I think this is the main thing. And mine is, everybody does what is supposed to be done, from the national government, the county government, and we as the public, to ensure that we prevent these diseases, this cancer, and we control it like other part of the world the way they are doing. Because I know the developed world have achieved a place where they've seen their people are not suffering like the way Africa is. So it's our time now to take measures to ensure that we prevent and control the cancer. And I think with that, we'll see our families, our members, the public not suffering. We've gone through this suffering. Because when a member is suffering, I think all people suffer. If it's a parent, if it's a brother, if it's a sister, if it's yourself, you suffer together. So I think when we do this control and the prevention and control, it will ease us. And even it demoralizes people from moving forward. Why? Because when you see a suffering dad, a suffering mother, it gives you that as if it's the end of the world, and then you start questioning a lot of things that you question. So I think for a healthy nation, for a healthy generations, we need to ensure that we prevent this and control the cancer diseases. And you support this bill, and I think this is one of the bills that we should all come up and support it, to ensure that our people will continue living healthy and ensure that they don't go through the suffering of a cancer that the way we've seen. And our hospitals, when they are equipped and they have early diagnostic, will ensure the first step is to ensure we prevent through our hospitals and through on what we eat and what we drink. I think with this, I say thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, and I give the opportunity maybe to the last person. Thank you.
Senator Tabitha, it is the prerogative of the chair to say who speaks last and who. Senator Crystal Asige.
Thank you very much, Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. The last shall be first, they say, Speaker, and I appreciate that even though I am last to speak on this very important amendment, that my suggestions and my thoughts will still be on record.
There are still members of the House who want to speak to this bill, so you are
Oh,
actually
good.
not the last.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise to support this amendment to the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill. Speaker, this is not a bill that is new. The Act is already in place, and all that we are debating here this evening is this amendment that has been put forth in front of the House. Speaker, it's very important, and I think that it's vital, actually, that the bill is seeking to align itself with digital and technological advancements in the health sector, as well as other sectors, seeing the boom in the digital industry across the world. And Speaker, adding telemedicine as well as e-health to this bill will absolutely be able to reach more people who are fighting cancer, who have cancer in their family, and who need the support that cancer medication and treatment will provide them wherever they are in the country. Mr. Speaker, it's something that I've been talking about for very, very long, since I have begun my advocacy in my work in disability in this sector. I've always spoken about the importance of digital technology and digital accessibility to support persons who are vulnerable. Of course, my work primarily focuses on people with disabilities, but we are seeing more and more as we continue debating, as we continue to see innovations growing in our country and abroad, that the digital space will be the solution to so many of our problems. So many of the things that plague us as human beings, there is a solution that lies in the digital space. And this is one of them, Speaker. Being able to reach rural areas, cancer treatment, cancer doctors, cancer interventions, being able to reach rural areas and people who are across Kenya will absolutely change the game in terms of early intervention and management of cancer conditions, and hopefully reversal, so that more people in Kenya can go through remission. We can be celebrating more cases of remission in the future. Speaker, I this week even just met somebody. His name is Martin Imbalambala. Now, many people might know him, many people might not know him, but Martin Imbalambala is a former captain of FC Leopards, and he's played for the team for 7 years. Unfortunately, in 2018, he had a sports injury that gave him a disability, and that disability is visual. He is now completely blind, like myself, a VIP, and he has been trying to figure out how to rehabilitate himself, how to bring his life back to somewhat of control, to his control, that is, Speaker. And as I've been speaking with Martin Imbalambala and consoling with him and having meetings and conversations with him and his wife and his family, Speaker, we realized that digital access and being able to rehabilitate himself through the tech space and tech innovations and accessible devices and so on and so forth has been the solution for him. Speaker, he has gone to Kenya Society for the Blind. He has taken courses in Braille. He has taken courses in computer science and tech. He has taken courses in how to use his smartphone with a screen reader like my own that I use here in Parliament. And now, Speaker, he is in a much better place, not just as the breadwinner of the house, not just as a man who is supposed to be a protector, provider, but also as a father of his children. He has now gained back his confidence because of digital innovations and the device that he's been able to gain. And I'm happy that I've been able to support him in his journey, to give him softwares on his laptop that will continue to help him reach a level that is not quite the same as where he used to be when he had his full sight, but it's close enough. And it's as close as it could maybe get to him taking control back of his life, Mr. Speaker. The reason I give this story, Speaker, is because I am underscoring the importance of the internet. I am underscoring the importance of technology and assistive devices. And not just in the case of persons with disabilities, but everyone is now seeing the same. And these amendments to the bill that we're discussing here will also prove to be as beneficial to non-disabled people seeking help, treatment, medication, as well as disabled people in the country. Speaker, also, it's important to understand that cancer, even though it's said to be genetic and somebody in your lineage must have it or must have had it for it to exist or manifest in yourself. But Speaker, to be quite honest, we are discovering every single day that medicine and our medical doctors and professionals may not know everything about these very complex conditions and complex diseases. Mr. Speaker, every single day as human beings, we're discovering one more thing. We are discovering that we don't know what we don't know. We only can move in a direction that we pick up small pieces of the puzzle and try and figure out interventions through research and experimentation, etc. So even though right now we are told that cancer is genetic and you have to have had it somewhere in your family, Speaker, we also know, and they tell us, that cancer can also come from lifestyle. It can also come from the foods that we eat. It can also come from trauma, we are told, and different types of psychological challenges that maybe stem from birth or stem from you as a young person or in your young age. And I just wanted to double down on the matter of food, Speaker. Because for me, I think that it's really fascinating to think about Kenya and how we could transform our approach to food and health. Instead of imposing VAT on things like bread of 16%, we could dive into sustainable agricultural practices, Speaker. We can take a leaf from the US Farm Bill of 2023, focusing on sustainable farming to empower local farmers and ramp up the production of healthier food choices, Speaker. This isn't just about money. It's about getting to the core of health problems like cancer. By pushing for fresh, nutrient-packed foods, Speaker, rather than processed junk, communities could tackle a whole host of health issues tied to cancer, diet, weight problems, lack of exercise, insulin problems, and other genetic conditions that come along. And shifting our resources from old school farming to programs backing sustainable practices and teaching about nutrition, Speaker, could be a game changer in dealing with health and environmental hurdles that we're seeing. It's heartening to see this global shift in mindset that recognizes how food systems is important to looking after human and our well-being and our health. And I just wish that we would also take a step further and not just look at cancer prevention in terms of what we can do with medicine, but what can we do with improving our health systems? What can we do with improving our health habits? What laws can this Parliament and this House be able to think of and put forth as proposals to improve our lifestyle choices, Mr. Speaker? Because we're here as leaders. We're here because we have knowledge. We're here because we have connections. We're here because we can, go and benchmark in different countries and come back with solutions that don't always have to, come about at stage 3 or stage 4. What if we don't even have to get to stage 1 of cancer? By really going to the root and looking at our lifestyles and looking at the foods that we're allowing to be imported into the country, to be put on our shelves, to be fed to our children, Mr. Speaker. It's very often that you see parents just give their child sweets, give their child processed foods, processed meats, processed whole grains, and think or believe, because of maybe lack of education or poor education, that this is good for my child. At least, so long as my child has a full belly, then he or she will be fine. But what are you doing to that child when they're 2 years old, when they're 3 years old? And what kind of future are you giving them by feeding them what you're feeding them today? We need to think in those kinds of terms, Speaker, so that we don't even have to get to stage, like I said, 1 or 2 or 3 of cancer cases. Mr. Speaker, I also wanted to, talk about how this bill would be really well placed if it also went vis-a-vis digital skills training. We need digital skills training. It's all well and good to say that we are going to introduce telemedicine and we're also going to introduce e-health systems when most of our country does not have digital skills. They don't know how to use smartphones to the best of their ability. They don't know how to use laptops, Mr. Speaker. How do you access the internet and make the most out of it, apart from just going on social media and TikTok? Mr. Speaker, we also need to think about how are we going to train our people to be able to use the online services that we are seeking to provide within this cancer prevention and control bill. Because it could be there, but as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. So we need to understand how we're going to have digital skills piggyback these amendments that we're talking about today, Speaker. Also, we need to talk about affordability and accessibility of the internet. That's the next part of this equation for me. How are we as Parliament, how is the government thinking about how to make the internet more accessible? Because these people, patients, cancer patients, people who have any kind of sickness, to be honest, even people with disabilities, will need a way to access the internet. They will need a way to have affordability of the internet. Otherwise, this is just a nice piece of legislation that, we'll pass here, it'll be signed into law, and then will not actually be useful on the ground. So what are we doing to reduce costs of data, to reduce the cost of internet accessibility, to reduce the cost of mobile phones, Speaker, to reduce the cost of apps, because many apps you have to buy. Even the telemedicine companies that we have here today that some of us use, you have to download them, and there's a fee for that. Sometimes there's a monthly fee for that. How are you going to expect somebody in Tana River County who has just lost everything that they have worked and lived for in the floods? How is he or she supposed to be able to afford a subscription of 1,000 shillings for a telemedicine app so that they can, manage their cancer condition? It's questions like these that we need to think about holistically. It's well to come with one amendment, but you have to think of it as a domino effect. There is a pathway to any solution, and we need to look at every single stage of that solution and not just jump from point A to point Z and say, we have the answer. This is a good bill. Kenya is ahead, when you haven't thought about all of the parts of the puzzle in the middle of that solution. Chair, Speaker, I wish that we also, just as moving forward as parliamentarians, as senators in this House, distinguished colleagues of mine, we need to start thinking about things that are outside of medicine. We need to start thinking about things that are regarding well-being and mental health, because that also goes hand in hand with cancer. If you don't have a healthy mind, many doctors will tell you that going through chemo, you need to have a strong will. You need to have a strong mind to be able to go through session after session of chemotherapy you need to have it. And Mr. Speaker, I don't want us to get to a place like with social media where a beautiful intervention has come. Social media is fantastic. It connects people. We are able to speak, communicate, do so much more through the internet and through social media. But the other side of that coin is that we are now seeing higher levels of loneliness in our communities. We are now seeing higher levels of isolation because people think because I'm on the internet, I'm okay. But really, the people who are behind those telephones, the people who are behind those mobiles, behind the
Senator
laptop.
Crystal, you still have got 5 minutes of your time to conclude.
Thank you. Speaker, people who are behind the laptop, they're not okay. We cannot assume that just because I see you update your WhatsApp status or your Instagram reels that, Senator Cherargei is fine today. But we have to also think about how to connect human being to human being. And I am just worried or concerned that if we focus on e-health and telemedicine alone, that we will just rely fully on that. We will just rely fully on a doctor seeing a patient virtually and diagnosing them through a screen, through the speaker of the phone, and that's it. And then forget that a human touch is absolutely necessary. It's vital in recovery, in management of any condition, so that we don't forget, we do not adopt one and then forget the other. Mr. Speaker, they have to go hand in hand. So even as we stand to support this bill, we need this amendment in the bill, we also need to figure out how to ring fence these cancer patients and not just say, because we have the internet, problems will be easier to solve. We have to say they'll be easier to solve, but also how do we keep the human connection that is extremely vital between patient and doctor. So even if it is a case of being treated or being seen online virtually through e-health, through telemedicine, we also need to make sure that there are also sessions that will be done in person. We should not lose that walk-in mechanism into hospitals or clinics and so on and so forth, even as we do support the amendment to the Cancer Prevention and Control Bill. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Senator Cherargei, how much time do you need to conclude your reply? Senator Cherargei, you may proceed to reply.
Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said, and I want to thank colleagues for the wonderful contribution to this Cancer Prevention Amendment Bill that we have been able to debate today. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank all the senators. And the conclusion has been done by the gracious lady, Senator Crystal Lasige, Senator Tabitha Mutinda the seconder, Senator Tabitha Karanja, Keroche. And you know, weekend is approaching. I hope she has prepared something for us as the acting majority leader. Senator, of course, my brother, senior brother, Senator Danson Mugatana, Mulamamba, sorry, and many others, Mr. Speaker. I know you would have contributed, but because of your unique position, Mr. Speaker, would be very in order. So I think cancer, we agree, it's a serious disease. We must be ready to tackle it through legislation, through allocation of resources. I want finally, Mr. Speaker, to call upon any member who has further amendments to ensure they bring it up so that in the third reading and committee of the whole, Mr. Speaker, they can bring the amendments, Mr. Speaker. with those very many remarks. And I want, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, to empathize and sympathize to many victims of cancer. We call you heroes. To many victims, people who have lost their loved ones, we empathize with you, we pray for you, and we are doing everything we can to fight the menace of cancer that continues not only to kill our people, but also flourish, Mr. Speaker, and make them lose their property and wealth. But we pray with you and we support and we wish you well. Mr. Speaker, I raise in that same breath, Standing Order 66.3, I request that the putting of question be deferred to a later date for division. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I beg to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Cherargei. And pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 66, the request is granted, and putting of the question will be when the House resumes. Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m. Time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 28th of May, 2024 at 2:30 p.m.